In the final battle against the brutal destroyer, this young man was nothing more than cannon fodder, crushed by a single attack. Yet instead of dying, he somehow traveled 15 years back in time, before the catastrophe that would end the world. Fortunately, he retained all the magical knowledge and elite combat skills he had gained in the future. The problem was that, in this era, those things were still only theories no one had ever discovered. So when he casually demonstrated a few basic moves, everyone thought he was using cheats. The famous heroine mage he could never approach in his previous life now became a junior who constantly came to him for advice. Even his former enemy switched sides and became a devoted follower who worshipped him like a celebrity, though their relationship was starting to look a little suspicious. Everything begins on a battlefield consumed by flames. Gray pants in agony and tells himself they have finally made it this far. Looking toward the enemy, he clings to the faint hope that they can defeat that thing. But a blazing red beam suddenly pierces straight through his body. His breath catches, and the light fades from his red eyes as he realizes he has reached his limit. He collapses onto the cold ground among the shattered remains and fallen bodies of his comrades. One fatal blow ends everything. Gray bitterly wonders whether he is truly going to die without accomplishing anything. The tragedy began when Liquid A, an enemy of humanity wielding power of unknown origin, appeared and erased an entire continent. To oppose him, an organization dedicated to protecting humanity was formed around legendary warriors. Its leader was Brian Miller, hailed as the world's shield after surviving a meteor impact without a scratch. Beside him stood the great sage Bella Law, whose overwhelming magic equaled the power of an entire army division. Next came Jacob Bloomfield, the divine archer who had slain a high-ranking dragon with a single arrow, and Ami, the sword saint known as the strongest swordswoman in history. Alongside those legends were Gray and the so-called support unit. In reality, Griley and the others were little more than disposable infantry. Watching the elite graduates of the World Alliance Academy fight, Gray bitterly realizes they exist on a completely different level. He wonders whether weaklings like him have any reason to be here. As his comrades fall one after another, Gray breaks down in frustration. They had trained so hard too. Ami's attack finally reaches the enemy, making Liquid A exclaim in surprise. "Oh? You actually wounded me?" Then his voice turns cold. "Very well. I suppose I should end this." He suddenly releases an unimaginable surge of crimson energy. A fatal slash sweeps across the battlefield and erases everything in an instant. Floating in the air, Liquid A declares coldly, "Shall we stop playing now?" Gray's mind reels as he realizes the cruel truth. The monster defeated them all with a single strike. He says everything until now was only a game. Gray cannot believe it. His glowing red eyes slowly close in utter helplessness. On the ruined battlefield covered in corpses, all hope dies with one thought: we never had a chance. Yet as Gray lies on the ground, he suddenly notices something wrong. Huh! Wait! Why? Why am I still alive? A mysterious voice echoes around him. "I have found you at last. Appear before me, bearer of tremendous power." Gray abruptly opens his eyes and finds himself in an unfamiliar land filled with ruins beneath the night sky. Confused, he asks, "Where am I? Is this the afterlife?" The place looks painfully barren. Then his gaze settles on a towering figure seated majestically on a throne before him. Kronos looks down at Gray and declares, "You are not dead. Your physical wounds have been healed." Gray remembers the moment his chest was pierced and asks in disbelief, "Did you heal me?" But the answer is completely unexpected. "No. It was not I, but your own power." Gray looks doubtful. "My own power?" The mysterious god explains that even he cannot fully analyze the terrifying, cheat-like force sealed inside Gray. However, he is certain that it surpasses even Liquid A's power, provided Gray can control it. Trembling, Gray asks, "Are you saying we can win?" Kronos answers with a solemn stare. "I do not know, and I do not expect much. But Liquid A must be eliminated." Then he gives a firm command. "Now go." A gigantic magic circle shaped like a clock lights up around Gray, bathing him in deep blue energy as Kronos says, "I will lend you my power. Back on the ruined battlefield, Gray's hand suddenly moves and grips his sword. Black and crimson energy burns around the blade, leaving him stunned. Kronos' voice echoes in his ears. That is your own power. Mine is not something visible to ordinary eyes. Sensing movement behind him, Liquidate turns in shock. A devastating slash wrapped in black-red energy flies straight toward him. Liquidate cannot believe another warrior this powerful still remains. Seeing a scratch on the enemy's armor, Gray realizes Liquidate was wounded as well. He tightens his grip and thinks that his own power may even be superior. Driven into a corner, Liquidate roars, "Do not underestimate me. I acknowledge you for forcing me to use my full strength." In the next instant, a beam of energy cuts Gray's body in half. Yet Liquidate never expected him to survive even such a fatal wound. Gray's entire body becomes shrouded in dense dark power. Liquidate trembles and asks, "What the hell are you? Are you truly human?" Half of Gray's face begins transforming, covered in blazing crimson cracks. The two charge at each other, and their collision creates an explosion that shakes the entire battlefield. Gray's attack is powerful enough to shatter Liquidate's defenses, leaving the destroyer terrified. Liquidate stammers once more, "Are you really human?" The moment the words leave his mouth, a fatal wound opens across his shoulder. Gray answers coldly, "That is the question I should be asking you." Though panting heavily, Liquida still cannot hide his astonishment. "Your power truly cannot be underestimated," Gray responds. "I will crush you again and again until you finally die." Then charges with another sword strike wrapped in overwhelming darkness. Liquidate screams in agony as the attack lands. "You monster!" Yet the destroyer still refuses to fall and suddenly releases a blinding light around his entire body. He forms a hand seal, preparing to activate an ultimate spell. The sky changes at once, and an enormous blue moon fills the heavens as his chilling declaration rings out. "Time is up." Gray stares upward in shock. "What is that? It looks like the world suddenly turned to night." Gray grits his teeth. "So what?" He swings his sword with everything he has. The blade crashes violently against Liquidate's defenses, scattering brilliant sparks. But Gray is horrified to discover that the attack has no effect. Liquidate laughs at his confusion. "It is useless. Within this realm of true twilight, nothing can harm me. Stop resisting and look up at the stars." Gray stares blankly at the brilliant points of light reflected in his eyes. Liquidate whispers triumphantly, "Beautiful, aren't they?" In the next instant, a colossal pillar of light crashes down from the sky and swallows Gray whole. The terrifying power creates an earth-shattering explosion, as if trying to erase Gray from existence. Floating amid the radiance, Liquidate declares, "If you are completely reduced to dust, you will not be able to resurrect." Certain that everything is over, he suddenly notices brilliant blue lightning gathering around him. The protagonist's impossible comeback leaves Liquidate stunned. "What?" A massive magic circle shaped like a clock appears behind him. Liquidate senses something abnormal. Energy surges from glowing spatial gates as Kronos' voice echoes. "You have accumulated an enormous amount of power. That should be enough to send you back." Realizing who is interfering at the final moment, Liquidate roars in terror. "Impossible! Kronos!" Kronos manifests and calls to Gray. "Can you hear me, bearer of great power? I will use every last fragment of my strength to send you into the past. This is all I can do for you." The magic clock spins violently, Roman numerals flashing past as Gray is swept into the current of time and returned to the beginning. Kronos' commanding voice resounds around him. "I entrust the fate of this world to you." Gray slowly opens his eyes and finds himself lying in a green meadow beneath bright sunlight. Looking around in confusion, he asks, "Where am I?" In the distance, a peaceful village appears, leaving Gray speechless. That is Renadu village, his hometown. Yet he clearly remembers that it was destroyed 15 years ago. Kronos' words return to him. "I will send you into the past." Gray trembles in disbelief. What the hell just happened? Then a sharp pain shoots through his arm, making him cry out. Looking at the bandaged wound, Gray gradually understands. This injury, That's right. Around this time, Fodder and the others used to bully him constantly. He grits his teeth, refusing to keep losing to them. But they are too strong. He cannot beat them. Gray sighs, and the battle against Liquid A already feels like a distant dream. Gray closes his eyes as the destroyer's image crosses his mind. Walking quietly through the forest, he thinks, I'll deal with them after I get a little stronger. I don't want to be hurt again. Then he freezes when he runs straight into them. Fodder approaches with a smug grin, his sword resting over one shoulder. I've been looking everywhere for you. You really made this difficult. He reeks of the kind of third-rate villain who starts trouble on every street corner. Gray breaks into a cold sweat when Fodder throws a sword at his feet and orders him to pick it up. Gray stares in confusion, unsure what is happening. Seeing him hesitate, Fodder shouts, Stop pretending to be stupid. Have a friendly match with me. Gray tries to decline politely. A friendly match? Sorry, but my injury has not fully healed. Thank you for the invitation, but I cannot participate until I recover. Unfortunately, politeness will not save him. Fodder only sneers. Don't worry. The blade has been dulled, so it is perfectly safe. Looking at the huge piece of iron on the ground, Gray thinks that dull or not, it can still crush someone if it lands badly. Fodder's patience quickly disappears. Shut your filthy mouth! You think you have the right to refuse? Fodder charges with murderous intent. If you don't like swords, we can fight barehanded instead. Gray finally understands the real plan. He wants to attack while Gray is unarmed. What kind of friendly match is this? In that dangerous moment, the words of a military doctor from his previous life suddenly returned to him. The reason his swordsmanship never improved was an injury he suffered as a child. Gray bitterly realizes this may have been the moment his failed life truly began. Then Gray notices something shocking. Fodder's attack is unbelievably slow. He casually slips aside and dodges the swing as if the world has entered slow motion. No, that is not it. Gray realizes his own reflexes have risen to a completely different level. Fodder screams in fury. Bastard! Why can't I hit you? He swings wildly again and again, but Gray calmly avoids every strike, his red eyes perfectly composed. Gray understands the truth. He has become faster. Even the henchmen watching from the side are stunned by the change. He moves like an entirely different person. His current body is nowhere near as strong as it was in the future, but Gray still remembers every hard-earned combat experience. He bends down and picks up the blunt sword just as Fodder charges, shouting for him to take the attack. Gray counters with one powerful swing. The impact leaves Fodder staggering. Gray looks at him with contempt. Did one blow really almost knock him down? Is it even worth fighting someone this inexperienced? He quickly discards that sympathy when he remembers all the brutal beatings these pieces of trash gave him. Gray grits his teeth. But that is no longer true. He launches a powerful slash that completely destroys Fodder's guard. Fodder's sword flies away, and he stammers in terror. Damn it! Gray remarks sarcastically that Fodder's skill is worse than a beginner's. He slowly walks closer, tightens his grip on the sword, and coldly repeats the very words Fodder used. You taught me that as long as a blade is dull, it is perfectly safe to hit someone with it. Gray's red eyes flash, and a deadly smile appears as he targets the trembling bully. His sword moves like lightning, opening a deep wound across Fodder's chest. Fodder screams and collapses under everyone's terrified gaze. Even Gray looks slightly surprised. Huh! Wasn't this blade supposed to be dull? He examines the sword and confirms that it truly has been blunted. Gray thinks that if it had been sharp, Fodder would already be dead. A crimson light flashes in his eyes. Then I suppose we should keep it dull. He follows with another crushing blow that sends Fodder flying. Looking at the trembling henchman, Gray asks casually, What's wrong? Why are all of you screaming so loudly? Fodder can only clutch his wound, coughing blood as he stares at Gray in terror. The situation reversed so quickly that his men stand frozen. Gray smiles ominously and repeats their own words. You were the ones who told me a dull sword was safe, weren't you? Humiliated and terrified, Fodder screams at his followers. What are you doing standing there? Get him! Although Gray's sudden strength frightens them, the henchmen gamble their lives and attack from behind at the same time. They have the reckless courage of disposable extras who will not survive 3 episodes. Gray glances at them calmly. What is this? You want another round? Despite the pressure radiating from him, the mob charges while screaming. Kill him! Gray smiles faintly. I was planning to let you go. A series of heavy impacts echoes through the forest. In the blink of an eye, Fodder and his followers are kneeling on the ground, faces swollen beyond recognition and too injured to speak. Looking at the people who once haunted him now reduced to this state, Gray thinks, how was I ever afraid of them? He asks coldly. You are students of the Saria swordsmanship school, aren't you? Fodder stammers. And more or less. We thought we were strong enough, so we stopped attending recently. Gray mocks them internally. This is what they call strong enough. He begins feeling disappointed and thinks he should not expect much from that school. On second thought, however, it may still have something useful to offer. Gray orders. Introduce me to the school. You need a referral to enter, don't you? Fodder tries to refuse. Why don't you ask someone else? If I tell Master I lost, I can't imagine what she will say. Seeing him hesitate, Gray raises the sword before his face. Then shall we continue our friendly match? His murderous aura now feels like that of a villain who has just seized control. Fodder turns deathly pale and screams. I'll introduce you! He immediately runs for his life. The school is this way. His followers panic and chase after him. Wait, Fodder! Don't leave us behind! The group walks through a town lined with tall buildings. On the way, Fodder asks, Why do you want to enter that school? Without looking at him, Gray asks in return. The school can recommend students to the academy, correct? When Fodder confirms it, Gray answers firmly. That is exactly why I want to join. One follower looks at Gray with equal admiration and fear. You're already so strong. Do you even need the academy? Gray looks into the distance, weighed down by thought. If only this level of strength were enough. He remembers the brutal reality that even the world's strongest formation was helpless against Liquid A. Gray had fought with everything he had, yet once the enemy became serious, he could not even scratch its armor. Gray wonders how powerful he must become to defeat such a being. Still, he sees a faint ray of hope. He remembers the brief moment in that battle when he truly touched and controlled the terrifying dark power hidden inside him. He recalls the days when the Sword Saint personally instructed him. Gray realizes that, at that moment, what he had focused on was the swordsmanship she taught. Looking back on his weakness, he regrets that if he had trained harder under the same conditions as her, the outcome of that life-and-death battle might have been different. Gray believes this is why Kronos returned him to the beginning. At the Saria swordsmanship school, a sharp-eyed woman with white hair glares coldly at the pathetic students before her, carrying the oppressive presence of an instructor ready to purge the entire school. Resting a wooden sword on her shoulder, she summarizes the situation in a harsh voice. So, to put it simply, you used the swordsmanship I taught you to bully civilians. After being beaten black and blue, Fodder and his followers kneel before the Saria instructor, trembling in terror. Sweating heavily, Fodder tries to defend himself. We weren't trying to bully him. It was only a practice match. But the clumsy lie only enrages the master further. She slams the wooden sword into the floor, creating a shockwave that shakes the entire room. The henchmen turn pale as she asks coldly, Who gave you permission to invent excuses? Her sharp gaze fixes on the ringleader. If attacking an unarmed person counts as a practice match, then what happens now is also just practice, correct? The tip of her wooden sword points straight at Fodder's eye, freezing him under crushing pressure. She expels the rotten students on the spot. Leave, and never return. From this moment on, you are no longer students of this school. Fodder's group can only mumble, Yes, master, before fleeing in panic. Once they disappear, the white-haired woman lowers her sword and looks at Gray more gently. I'm sorry. It seems my former students caused you trouble. Gray bows modestly. Please don't worry about it. After thanking him, the instructor gets straight to the point. I heard you want a recommendation to the academy. When Gray nods with determination, she walks to the weapon rack. She explains that, As an apology for the trouble Berder caused, she genuinely wants to write the letter. Still, she will not abandon her principles. First, I have to test your ability. Gray calmly clenches his fist. I understand. They take their positions in the training yard. The white-haired woman assumes a defensive stance and allows Gray the first move. Attack whenever you're ready. Gray wastes no time. Here I come! His sword strikes are sharp and precise, generating powerful gusts that secretly surprise his opponent. For someone his age, this boy's swordsmanship is extraordinarily practical, as though he has survived countless battles. The longer they fight, the more experience she senses in every movement, and she understands why her former students lost so badly. Berder and the others were never his match. His style is mostly self-taught, yet some swings resemble techniques taught at the academy. While deflecting his attacks, the white-haired woman wonders whether someone trained him before. His technique is still rough, but he is clearly a diamond in the rough with enormous potential. Deciding she has seen enough, she thinks it is time to end the match. But the pace suddenly rises, catching even the instructor by surprise. Strange. Why is he not out of breath? How is he still keeping up with me? She realizes that she originally intended to test him lightly, but without noticing, she has started fighting at full strength. Then she looks deep into Gray's glowing red eyes, filled with killing intent. A chill runs down her spine, and she is stunned to realize she is actually afraid of this boy. Gray suddenly makes a wide swing. The instructor lets her guard down, thinking her bad feeling was misplaced and that it is only a wild slash. Seeing an opening, she immediately lunges. At last, he has exposed a weakness. This ends now. But in the decisive instant, an impossible reversal leaves her completely frozen. She cannot believe the wooden sword in her hand has somehow broken. Splinters scatter through the air under tremendous pressure. Gray stands motionless, feeling familiar energy flow through his veins. This is exactly like that moment. So I still possess that power. Suddenly, agonizing pain overwhelms Gray, and he collapses in the middle of the floor. The instructor rushes over in panic. What happened? Are you all right? Gray grits his teeth through the pain and realizes the harsh truth. His body cannot keep up with the power. Struggling for breath, he forces himself upright with the wooden sword and answers weakly, I'm fine. Despite what he says, Gray knows he is barely standing. He warns himself never to use this power carelessly. No, it would be best not to use it at all. Seeing the suspicion on the instructor's face, Gray knows she would never believe any explanation. Besides, this is a power he still cannot fully control. To ease the tension, Gray scratches his head and laughs awkwardly. I may have gone a little overboard. The instructor silently studies her broken wooden sword. Logically, it should be impossible to cut through her weapon with another blunt wooden blade. And Gray clearly knows that too. When he notices her staring, he asks cautiously, Is something wrong? Looking at the seemingly innocent smile on the boy's face, she sighs internally. He has no intention of telling the truth. The instructor closes her eyes, suppressing her shock and questions about Gray's real strength. When he repeats his wish for an academy recommendation, she studies him and confirms. Yes, I can. I could write a letter to the most prestigious school in the kingdom, the Royal Swordsmanship Academy. Then her gaze suddenly turns cold. But I cannot recommend that you go there. You are not suited for that place. Gray goes still, thinking bitterly, I knew it. I'm still not strong enough. He realizes that aside from the final burst of power, he accomplished almost nothing significant. Unexpectedly, the white-haired woman continues. The place you should aim for is the World Alliance Academy. It is not merely the most prestigious school in the kingdom, but a gathering place for the greatest geniuses across the entire world. Gray is stunned. The World Alliance Academy? Isn't that where the Sword Saint and the others studied? He doubts someone like him could enter such a legendary place, but the instructor immediately pours cold water on the idea. No. Right now, it is impossible. You have probably realized that yourself. Your body is not suited to being a swordsman. It is the brutally honest conclusion of a top-tier instructor. She explains that Gray might fool people at the Royal Academy through technique, But no one at the Alliance Academy would be deceived. Looking at him suspiciously, she asks how someone with such a weak body acquired skills like his. The Alliance Academy sounds like a server filled entirely with monsters. Gray breaks into a cold sweat. He knows everyone who emerges from that place is a true monster, and with his current physique, he has no chance against them. Seeing him discouraged, the instructor asks, "Why are you giving up? There are still 9 months before the entrance exam." Gray worries that 9 months is far too little preparation time, and the instructor admits that it truly is not much. However, she looks directly into his eyes. "But I want you to trust me." Under that intense gaze, she asks whether he is prepared to endure hardship throughout the months ahead. Although Gray privately has no desire to suffer, he knows there is no other path. He grips his clothes and declares firmly, "I will do it. Please help me for the next 9 months." Seeing determination burn in her student's red eyes, the instructor gives a mysterious smile. "Good. Then your help begins now." She takes a ready stance, prepared to turn his training into a genuine nightmare that will force out his limits. Calendar pages begin turning rapidly, marking days of suffocatingly harsh training. Gray carries enormous boulders through pouring rain, consumes mountains of food to build his body, and even swallows terrifying-looking recovery medicine. The instructor's philosophy is simple: survive first, then worry about the rest. It does not stop there. Gray is repeatedly thrown down and battered during merciless sparring sessions. 8 months of sweat and blood transform the frail teenager into a warrior with razor-sharp reflexes. Gray has completely changed, now possessing a lean, muscular body covered in the scars of growth. The instructor says with satisfaction, "You've become much tougher. I have nothing left to teach you." She smiles and tells him to leave with confidence. Gray is confused because the exam is still a month away. She explains that taking an exam in an unfamiliar place is difficult, so he should arrive early, become familiar with the environment, and prepare properly. The instructor gives Gray a bag of money and says it is enough to cover a month's travel, food, and lodging. Sensing something strange, Gray asks, "Isn't leaving a full month early a little too soon?" He privately suspects she is trying to drive him away, but his master only laughs. "You're overthinking it." Then her expression turns serious as she reveals that a goblin nest has recently appeared near the village. Since the village has no guards, the situation is tense. Still, she casually insists that it has nothing to do with them. Reinforcements will come from the royal capital, so there is no need to worry. She urges Gray to leave for the exam without concern, but the anxiety in his eyes shows he does not believe her reassurance. Gray sees through his master's heart and knows she is lying. In his memories, no one comes to save the village. It is destroyed, and his master dies after going alone to exterminate the monsters. Though it pains him, Gray remains calm. "I understand. Thank you for everything." Then he says his farewell. "I'm leaving." The instructor smiles, wishes him success, and watches him depart. Night quickly falls, and a full moon hangs over the star-filled sky. Deep in the dark forest, she enters the danger zone alone. Studying the tracks on the ground, she thinks, according to the scouting report, it should be over there. Just as she moves forward, a familiar voice suddenly comes from above. "Where are you going?" She looks up in shock and sees Gray sitting casually on a tree branch. His sharp gaze looks down at her. The instructor exclaims, "Gray? Why are you here? Aren't you on your way to the academy?" Gray lightly jumps down from the branch. "I should be asking you that. You said the goblin nest would be handled by soldiers from the royal capital." The white-haired woman finally admits the army cannot come because of an urgent matter, so she decided to deal with the monsters herself. She confidently insists that she is enough on her own. The scouting report says the leader is a high-ranking goblin commanding a pack of roughly 40 to 50. Though the number is troublesome, she still plans to enter their lair alone. Gray analyzes the situation. A high-ranking goblin is not overwhelmingly strong, but its true strengths are intelligence and leadership. If she is surrounded, this is practically suicide. His gaze hardens as memories of the old tragedy return. If she goes alone, she will never return, and his hometown will be erased. I witnessed that future myself, Gray thinks. He looks directly into her eyes and pleads. Please let me come with you. The white-haired woman refuses firmly. I already told you. I am enough alone. Gray refuses to give up. I don't want to miss this chance for real combat. Or do you think I will only be a burden? His master looks at him with complicated emotions. Smiling, she admits that even in sparring she can no longer defeat him. Even so, real battle is unpredictable, especially against a nest that appeared so suddenly. For something this dangerous, it would be better for him to wait until he has more practical experience. Gray lowers his voice. So you are determined to go alone? Then I have an idea. As his master looks puzzled, he declares coldly. I will fight you, knock you unconscious, and handle the goblins myself. Gray's eyes burn with killing intent as he grips his sword, fully prepared to carry out the outrageous plan to protect his teacher. Faced with her student's extreme determination, the instructor sighs and lowers her sword. Fine. I surrender. She looks at Gray with trust, but still gives him a warning. Promise me that no matter what happens, you will return safely. Gray replies casually. That's my plan. You make sure you don't die either. The two head toward the monster's lair. His master smiles. Of course. Under pale moonlight, a deep valley appears, with flickering fires from the goblin nest hidden between steep cliffs. Studying the terrain, Gray remarks that there is no escape route. The creatures must be very confident to build a nest in such a place. His master adds, We cannot escape either. These are intelligent monsters, so caution comes first. One mistake and the whole team dies. Gray nods. Understood. They hide behind a rock and observe the large goblins guarding the area below. The instructor whispers, I don't see the leader. It must be inside the tent. Hopefully, we can reduce their numbers before it appears. She quickly divides the work. Gray, take them down one at a time from that side. I'll approach from here. Gray answers calmly. Understood. After receiving an approving nod, the two launch their assault with a single command. Begin! One goblin notices something wrong, but it is already too late. His master charges like a whirlwind. Her attacks are so fast that the goblins cannot even understand what is happening before the guards collapse one after another. Alarm cries spread throughout the nest, and goblins rush out wildly to surround them. Inside the enemy ring, Gray grips his sword as his red eyes flash with killing intent. He moves through the crowd like a ghost, every slash carrying tremendous force and cutting down monsters before they can react. Master and student coordinate perfectly, forming a deadly pincer that sweeps away all resistance. His eyes burn with determination to exterminate the monsters and protect the village's future. Standing among the corpses, the instructor is amazed by her student's skill. Not bad. Is this really your first battle? Gray remains cold and warns. Master, be careful. This has only begun. Looking at the monsters beneath his feet, he senses something strange. They are too weak. If this were all, his master really could have handled them alone. His suspicious gaze moves toward the distant darkness. Unless something is inside that tent. Within the gloomy shelter, a pair of crimson eyes silently watches them with intense murderous intent. Realizing the true danger, Gray shouts, We have to leave now! Run! His master asks in shock, What happened? Gray has no time to explain and only urges her to run. Though she does not understand, they both retreat immediately. At that moment, an enormous shadow dives from above and crashes down hard enough to shake the ground. From the wreckage emerges a massive armored monster wielding a gigantic axe. The instructor exclaims, A high-ranking goblin! What an honor! But when the apparent leader appears, Gray realizes the truth is even worse. No, that is not the leader! The real threat is an enormous mouth filled with razor-sharp teeth closing in, followed by countless roars as goblins charge to surround them. His master stares in horror. What are those? These are no longer ordinary goblins, but an army of monsters radiating the sinister pressure of creatures from hell. Gray recognizes the brutal truth. A Goblin General is the true leader of this nest. The commander appears with crimson eyes and a skull-shaped greatsword, leading a massive army that encircles them. The Goblin General is the true leader. His master grits her teeth and orders, "Take it down, then run." She shoots forward like lightning and delivers a direct opening slash against the giant. To her horror, the wound glows purple and heals almost instantly. Gray warns that their attacks are useless because the Goblin General's roar can strengthen and rapidly heal both itself and its entire army. The situation has changed completely. No wonder everything feels different. "I don't think I can even kill one now." Surrounded by increasingly frenzied monsters, Gray firmly tells his master to defend the rear and buy him time. His master asks in shock, "What are you planning?" Gray gives no direct answer. He simply stares at the enemy with glowing red eyes. In his mind, only one path remains: he must kill the bastard standing above them. It is irritating how the goblins keep trying to flank him. Gray slips between attacks from both sides and releases blue sword arcs that cut down the screaming monsters. Dodging as smoothly as a top Formula 1 driver, he tells himself he must focus completely and erase every enemy blocking the path ahead. But during the fierce clash, the sword in Gray's hand suddenly shatters under the tremendous pressure. He is stunned. Can his weapon not withstand fighting these strengthened goblins? A giant monster seizes the opening and attacks Gray directly. He quickly draws his remaining spare sword, but realizes with concern that this one will soon break as well. At the critical moment, his master shouts from behind and throws him her weapon. "Gray, use my spare sword!" He catches it cleanly. "Thank you." Now wielding two swords, Gray calculates that they may not be enough to clear the entire army, but they are enough to fight one Goblin General and anyone standing in his way. Gray charges into the monster formation like a deadly cyclone. Rapid sword strikes cut down enemy after enemy in an instant, even as blood runs from a wound on his face. Gray smiles arrogantly and pours all his strength into a fiery clash with the largest monster. He clicks his tongue as more enemies continue flooding in. Powerful sword arcs tear through goblins charging like moths into flame. The battle has become a desperate final team fight with no retreat. In the distance, the Goblin General opens its mouth and releases an earth-shaking roar, its eyes blazing with crushing pressure. Gray exclaims, "What?" He realizes the energy from the roar is driving the goblins mad and multiplying their strength. One monster suddenly stops Gray's blade, making him groan as he looks toward the leader watching from above. Gray understands the cruel truth. "You saw through my plan?" The general's roar continues through the valley, driving its soldiers to tear apart their prey. While struggling to defend, Gray thinks, "So your intelligence is not just for decoration." He repeatedly swings his swords to knock aside the relentless attacks, searching desperately for an opening in the tightening encirclement. Gray shouts, "Move!" and forces a bloody path through the monster's thick defense. But their numbers are too great, and he begins to be overwhelmed. Fresh wounds open across his back. Gritting his teeth, he thinks, "I don't have time to waste on these things." A goblin leaps onto Gray from behind and locks its arms around him. At the same moment, another giant monster closes in and raises a deadly axe directly above him. Attacks rain down, opening new wounds. Gray understands their vicious strategy. They are sacrificing themselves one after another to wear down his swords. Exhaustion fills his eyes as another enormous goblin swings a crushing fist toward him. Gray uses the last of his strength to block the violent strike, but the pressure is too great and sends him flying. Gray lies badly wounded, breathing fast and painfully. Completely exhausted, he can barely force himself upright. Looking at the single sword beside him, he bitterly wonders whether he must face an entire goblin army, and its general with only that blade. Before the ranks of monsters advancing toward him, Gray feels utterly powerless. From the hard lessons of his previous life, he knows the brutal truth: he cannot win. With death closing in, Gray grips the sword and makes his final decision. He turns and shouts, "Master, run! Escape while they are focused on me!" But the white-haired woman only answers with a mysterious smile. She calmly declares, "I'm sorry, but I cannot do that," then steps forward to confront the gigantic Goblin General. Gray screams desperately, "Are you going to die for nothing? I'll run after you. Master, don't worry about me." But the white-haired woman quietly answers. That isn't it. With difficulty, she admits. I can no longer run. Looking down at her badly wounded legs, blood still streaming from them, Gray realizes she reached her limit long ago. His mind reels as he understands there is no way out. Watching the monsters approach, he bitterly thinks, I traveled back through time to defeat the destroyer. And yet everything is about to end in a place like this? Gray swings wildly to resist, but the sword in his hand once again shatters under the overwhelming pressure. No! It isn't over yet! Gray watches the fragments fall through the air and forms a reckless idea. If he can reach the power from that moment, if he can only touch it again. Images of his earth-shaking battle against Liquid return. Gray is certain that even this entire goblin army would be nothing before that force. He orders himself, remember. Remember how it felt back then. Gray grips the broken hilt and pours all his will into awakening the destructive power sleeping inside him. Suddenly, a blazing red eye with a vertical, monstrous pupil opens, radiating terrifying killing intent. Gray stands tall as his arm extends, surrounded by surging black energy. His master stares in shock and stammers his name. What follows happens in a flash. The monster's head separates from its body in a sword strike too fast for the naked eye to see. His master gasps, unable to believe such overwhelming power. With the leader critically wounded and its control weakened, she charges into battle, sparks flying from her sword. Her eyes brighten as she realizes the pressure has diminished. The enemies feel lighter now. She grits her teeth. You truly caused me trouble. A sword arc infused with deep blue spiritual energy sweeps across the field and wipes out numerous goblins in an instant. She declares coldly, without the general strengthening you, none of you are anything. The battle ends. Beneath the golden moon, master and student pant in exhaustion among the ruined battlefield. She says shakily, somehow we managed it. Looking at the broken sword in his hand, Gray apologizes. I'm sorry. I broke your sword. The white-haired woman only smiles gently. I don't mind. You saved my life. Gray lets the broken piece fall. Curious, she begins. Gray, that attack just now. But before she can finish, his body collapses. Gray! The instructor screams. The young man lies unconscious on the cold ground, completely spent after exhausting the last of his strength. Gray wakes in a boundless dark space and wonders where he is. In the void stands a gigantic gate wrapped in chains and sealing charms, radiating the mystery of forbidden ancient magic. Crimson cracks like blood begin spreading across its surface. Gray recognizes the familiar dark energy leaking from it. The image of a demonic eye flashes through his mind. This is it. This is that power. Standing before the burning gate, Gray asks himself whether opening it will grant him that strength. He steps forward, but a gigantic red skeletal demon suddenly appears, as though ready to devour his soul. Gray drops to his knees and clutches his chest as the crushing pressure tightens around him. He bitterly realizes that he does not know why, but one fact is certain: if he opens this gate with his current body, he will die. Terror shakes him like a beginner who accidentally found a forbidden seal before recovering any health. A mysterious voice says, "A wise decision." Gray jolts awake, breathing hard after the nightmare of the sealed gate. Master Saria rushes to the bedside. "Gray, you're awake!" He looks around blankly and asks where he is. She sighs with relief and explains that this is the village clinic, and he has been unconscious for 5 days. She had begun fearing he would never wake. Gray is stunned that he slept for 5 days. He thinks he pushed himself too far and his body must have reached its limit, but Saria immediately objects. Push yourself is far too mild a phrase for what he did in that battle. Setting that aside, she asks anxiously, "Is your body all right? Can you move?" Gray tries to move his right arm but finds it nearly powerless. He cannot put any strength into it. Even when he forces it to shift slightly, he fears he may never hold a sword again. A strange black bruise, like a dark mark, appears on his wrist. Gray wonders why Saria cannot see it when she asks. "It doesn't move well, does it?" He answers honestly. "I can't put any strength into my dominant arm." Saria confirms gravely that the injury will not heal soon because every bone in his right arm was shattered. Gray exclaims, "My bones were shattered!" He is shocked that he feels no pain despite the damage. Saria reveals that they treated him with magical medicine. Gray shouts in surprise, "Magical medicine? Isn't that incredibly expensive?" She reassures him that the village chief provided it. Gray remains confused. Why would the chief give something so precious to someone like him? He still cannot believe an NPC from the beginner village became the MVP who saved his life. Saria looks at him with gentle pride. "What are you saying, Gray? You are the hero of this village." At that moment, the door bursts open and the village chief rushes in calling Gray's name. Gray tries to thank him for the magical medicine, but the old man immediately interrupts and grasps his hand emotionally. "We are the ones who must thank you." The chief is still stunned that the monster Gray defeated was a Goblin General, a creature that even the combined forces of nearby towns could not scratch. Yet it targeted this small village. He emphasizes that without Gray, the village would have been completely erased. He insists that without Gray and Saria, the medicine, the clinic, and the lives of every villager would no longer exist. Embarrassed by such gratitude, Gray says, "You're giving me too much credit." But the chief smiles and says Gray should understand the truth better than anyone. Gray falls silent as the image of his former village burning in his previous life returns. He admits internally that the chief is probably right. Before his regression, this place was indeed destroyed by the goblin attack. Seeing him still lost in thought, the chief says he will explain the importance of this achievement if Gray has not understood it. Then he suddenly asks, "I heard you are about to take the World Alliance Academy entrance exam. Is that correct?" Gray freezes as a horrible thought crosses his mind. He fought the monsters 1 week before the exam and has slept for 5 days. Only 2 days remain. Walking from here to the World Alliance Academy takes 3 days. A horse would reduce it to 1, but he has no money to rent one. Realizing the deadline is already at his throat, Gray looks desperately at the chief. "I'm sorry, but could you lend me a horse?" The chief smiles as though he expected the request. "I knew you would ask, so I prepared the best horse in the village." He assures Gray that its speed will get him there in no time. Saria teases that if he had not awakened today, they planned to carry him there while he slept. The support team is determined not to let their carry miss the exam. Gray can only smile awkwardly at everyone's care. The moment he opens the door and steps outside, an unexpected sight appears. A huge crowd of villagers lines the road, holding bright banners of support. Gray freezes as cheers shake the street. "Thank you. You have to pass the exam. Thank you for saving our village." Young women wave excitedly to the hero who saved them. A man representing the villagers steps forward and hands Gray a heavy cloth bag. "Gray, please accept this." Gray takes the unexpected gift and asks, "What is it?" The man explains, "It is money collected by everyone in the village." They know the application costs for the World Alliance Academy are enormous, so they want to support his future. Looking at their bright, hopeful faces, Gray whispers emotionally, "Everyone." He smiles more brightly than ever. "Thank you all so much." Yet while leading the horse away, pressure builds inside him. "If I fail now, I'll never be able to show my face here again." Saria seems to read his thoughts and gently tells him not to worry. Saria smiles confidently and says no other applicant could defeat a Goblin General as he did. Gray looks at his bandaged arm and worries whether he can compete, but she immediately reassures him. "Your left hand still works, doesn't it?" He has barely recovered and is already being forced into the entrance exam. Gray clenches his left fist. Though he still hesitates, Saria insists that it is more than enough and that he will not need to use that terrifying power again. Standing beside the warhorse, Gray worries that the entrance exam cannot possibly be easy enough to pass with one arm. Saria looks directly into his eyes and says the Academy's examiners are not blind enough to overlook genuine talent. She smiles brightly and promises, "I guarantee it. You will pass." Gray grips the reins, sincerely thanks his teacher, and silently vows not to disappoint her. As he rides away and looks back at the peaceful village, Gray thinks that this place should have been destroyed in his previous life, yet it still exists. The world has truly changed, and the future can be rewritten by his own strength. Determination fills his red eyes. Let's go. Hooves thunder along the long road. Gray silently thanks the excellent horse for helping him arrive on time. Amid the endless ocean rises a colossal circular structure, connected to the outside by impossibly long bridges. Gray stares at its grandeur. So this is the World Alliance Academy. Crowds and carriages stream through the majestic front gate, opening a new chapter in his struggle to change fate. Inside the Academy's enormous central arena, thousands of applicants gather beneath a clear blue sky. A commanding voice announces that exam cards will now be distributed and orders everyone to remain in place until the process ends. Among the crowd, Gray hears anxious discussion about the brutal acceptance rate. Are all these people rivals when only around 20 will be chosen? The competition feels like an academic battle royale. Others say the number changes every year. Sometimes 50 pass, but one year only a single candidate succeeded. Attention shifts to the high platform as Professor Ariel steps forward. With blazing red hair and an authoritative presence, she says she will get straight to the point and distribute the exam cards. Smiling meaningfully, Ariel tells everyone to catch the paper that will appear before them. With one powerful snap of her fingers, brilliant golden magic erupts and spreads across the entire arena, stunning the thousands present. Gray watches a glowing magical paper appear in his hand. It contains only a short line, Candidate 513, Swordsmanship Course. Seeing that everyone has received a card, Ariel explains from above that many may be surprised by a blank piece of paper containing nothing but a number and course. She smiles proudly and says this is the Academy's annual tradition. Ariel's gaze sharpens as she declares that the World Alliance Academy discriminates against no one based on age, gender, nationality, or social status. Here, even a candidate's real name has absolutely no meaning. She points ahead and stresses that only those strong enough to pass the exam and cross the bridge into the Academy deserve to be asked their names. They may even use false names if they wish, as long as they prove their ability. Gray stares at the paper. He left his sword at the inn, yet it still placed him in the swordsmanship course. What kind of system is this? It must be reading aura with artificial intelligence instead of scanning weapons. Above, Ariel adds with a smirk. I assigned courses based only on your appearance. If I made a mistake, raise your hand. A strange light flashes through her glasses, and the crowd erupts in disbelief. She chose our courses just by looking at our faces? That's impossible. How could she do that with this many people? Theories spread nonstop. They must have investigated everyone in advance. Or perhaps she used mind-reading magic. The crowd invents conspiracies like a game chat after a major update. Ariel surveys the arena and says no one appears misplaced. Next, I will announce the schedule. Check your cards. Gray looks down. The words Day 1, 11 a.m. make his face pale. Damn it. I have to take the exam on the first day? I hope to give my arm more time to recover. Ariel emphasizes the exam's strict rules. This is a one-time practical test. Anyone who arrives late will be automatically disqualified. Be punctual. We accept no requests to alter individual schedules. Among the crowd, Gray grips his bandaged right arm. He still cannot put any strength into his dominant hand. Please recover by tomorrow, even if only a little. Time passes quickly, and the official exam day arrives under the Academy's bright sky. Gray looks at his arm and faces the harsh reality. It has not improved at all. It seems he must take the exam in this condition. An administrator's voice interrupts his thoughts. Next candidate, please wait at the arena entrance. He exhales to steady himself. No. This is not the time to be pessimistic. His left hand works perfectly, and he can still move his right arm to some extent. Gray stares at his hands, ready to face his first challenge. He plans to use the remaining time to study the examiner's movements and find an opening. Below, the bespectacled examiner calmly tells the opponent, "You may attack first." The large candidate immediately roars and charges with a heavy greatsword. A devastating slash crashes down, filling the arena with dust. But the examiner casually steps aside, stunning the attacker. Refusing to stop, the candidate grits his teeth. I'm not finished yet! The familiar line comes immediately before a counterattack combo. He swings furiously, creating a series of fiery clashes. Then he realizes in horror that every attack has been stopped. Impossible! The examiner remains expressionless, and releases a lightning-fast slash. In an instant, the great sword flies into the air, and a powerful strike sends the candidate crashing away. The examiner sheathes his sword and declares, "Your test ends here. Retrieve your weapon and leave the arena." The defeated candidate mutters an acknowledgement, and walks away in disappointment. After witnessing the absolute domination, Gray breaks into a cold sweat and closes his eyes under crushing tension. "I'm finished." Then the examiner's sharp voice echoes across the arena. "Next, number 513. Gray steps into the arena. "Yes." Looking at the examiner who just defeated a giant with one hand, he cannot help worrying. "You want me to fight someone who did that one-handed?" The examiner calmly orders. "You may attack first." Gray responds, "Understood." Though he thinks, honestly, "I don't feel I have any chance," he resolves to do everything possible. "Let's go." Gray charges as his master's lesson returns. "A sword is not swung only with the arm. You must guide the power generated by your entire body through your hands. That is what you taught me, isn't it, Master?" Gray puts force into the attack. Even if his right arm has no strength, perhaps he can transfer power from his other muscle groups. He swings. But he immediately realizes the flaw. "I still cannot fight as I normally do. If swinging a sword without arm strength were easy, no one would train their body in the first place." A powerful collision occurs, surprising the examiner. Gray suddenly notices something. "Huh!" Studying the man's sword path, he wonders, isn't the examiner's technique a little slow? The two charge again. Gray analyzes that the examiner possesses tremendous strength, but his speed and skill cannot compare with Saria's. He changes tactics. "If I rely on the swordsmanship she taught me, I can compensate for the difference in arm strength." With that conclusion, killing intent flashes in Gray's red eyes. He accelerates, forcing the examiner to grit his teeth and defend with difficulty. Gray becomes certain. Yes, he is slow. He is not nearly as strong as I imagined. His master's smiling face returns with her promise. "You will definitely pass." Gray's sword collides with the examiner's, scattering brilliant sparks. Gray pours all his will into the final attack. "I think I can actually do this." He grits his teeth against the examiner's relentless strikes. Though he has understood the man's swordsmanship, his red eyes track every motion, searching for the smallest opening among the sparks of their constant clashes. Gray bitterly faces reality. The difference in raw strength is too great. He cannot break the examiner's stance. Defeating him with one arm is not easy. However, Gray notices the examiner's movements growing rougher and less precise as he becomes impatient to finish the match. Knowing the risk, Gray decides to stake everything on this instant. "Maybe if I do it now." As predicted, the examiner unleashes a powerful slash but exposes a fatal opening. Gray smiles triumphantly. "Got you." He swung far too widely. The examiner's sword misses and embeds itself in the ground. Nothing creates a better opening than a large, committed swing like that. Gray slips behind him in a flash. No matter how great the difference in strength, if I can get behind him, just as Gray prepares the decisive strike, a commanding shout echoes through the arena. "Stop!" Both fighters freeze. Gray stands with his sword pointed at the examiner, still breathing hard. He wonders whether the match is truly over and regrets that the order came just as he found his chance. However, an announcement from the stands destroys his remaining hope. The test time has ended. With this result, the match is considered a draw. Gray grits his teeth bitterly and blames himself for failing to finish the fight sooner. Looking at his sword and bandaged right arm, Gray leaves the arena with his head lowered. He tells himself he did everything possible, but anxiety surrounds him. If he cannot defeat even this examiner, the road ahead will be brutal. Climbing the steps heavily, he sighs that perhaps he must return next year after his arm fully recovers. 1 week later, senior officials gather in meeting room 53 of the World Alliance Academy to evaluate the exam results. A silver-haired representative wearing reading glasses asks for everyone's opinions now that all applicants have completed their tests. A tired young examiner complains that the joint observation process is inefficient and suggests dividing the work next year. A bearded member immediately objects that personal convenience can never justify overlooking academy talent. The elder interrupts and orders everyone to focus on the candidates instead of the exam system. Tapping the table, he begins with the swordsmanship course and asks the decisive question. Who passed? Deep blue magic erupts, displaying a list of the strongest applicants. As usual, anyone who defeated an examiner will pass. Watching magical screens replay the matches, the elder explains that everyone else will be judged by displayed skill and how well they endured the 15-minute limit. Then he asks the swordsmanship instructors for their opinions. One examiner says candidates 5, 217, and 753 stood out most among those who did not win. The discussion quickly ends. Let's decide on those. The others would not keep up with the curriculum even if admitted. Everyone agrees. Then the swordsmanship acceptance list is confirmed. The elder nods. But the atmosphere changes when another question is raised. What about candidate 513? Every gaze turns toward the screen showing Gray. An examiner stares at the teenager. Candidate 513? That kid? Being examined by the entire council feels like a teacher turning on the camera to check homework. Gray's match appears again on the magical display. The examiner judges harshly. It looked as though he was about to win, but if he must rely on setting a trap just to defeat an examiner, his future will be difficult. More criticism follows. His technique is good, but his strength is severely lacking. He was overwhelmed from beginning to end. The elder concludes coldly. Then he fails. While her colleagues dismiss Gray, Professor Ariel silently watches with a meaningful expression. Looking at everyone around her, Ariel thinks, so many observers, yet not one noticed it. She sighs sarcastically that if they are all this blind, joint observation truly is a waste of time. The next morning, sunlight covers the Academy's enormous clock tower as crowds stream toward the center. Gray stands beneath the tower gripping exam card 513. A loudspeaker echoes. The accepted swordsmanship candidates will now be announced. Only 6 people passed. Gray swallows nervously. It is starting. The numbers are called one by one, Candidate 5, Candidate 217. Their exam cards burst into brilliant red flames. Then come 432, 615, 753, and 925. The announcement ends coldly. That is all. These 6 candidates have been accepted into the swordsmanship course. Gray stares in shock at the silent card in his hand. A final message orders successful candidates to cross the bridge and complete enrollment before the day ends. Around Gray, winners cheer excitedly, while he stands in terrible silence. Lowering his head, he admits bitterly that he truly failed. Among the laughing and crying crowd, Gray turns away in crushing disappointment. Then a strange announcement breaks the atmosphere. Next, the Special Eye of Heaven admission, Candidate 513. Immediately, Gray's card erupts with brilliant deep blue energy that covers his hand. Everyone around him gasps at the strange phenomenon. Gray stares at the blue flame dancing over his hand. Did I pass? Other candidates whisper suspiciously. An Eye of Heaven special admission? So they're doing that again this year. Under all the stares, Gray remains stunned. Eye of Heaven special admission? He has never heard of it. That's just someone entering through the back door, isn't it? One candidate sneers, while another adds, The World Alliance Academy has truly fallen. Gray is shocked to be branded a privileged admission no one respects. He has no connections, so he wonders whether Saria secretly helped him. Yet the idea makes little sense because she never mentioned anything. An elder suddenly appears and rebukes the youths. Do not speak of the Eye of Heaven admission that way. He declares it an honorable title, a prestigious category that has produced heroes for humanity for more than a century. Despite the warning, the candidates keep whispering. Those old men are obsessed with the Eye of Heaven admission. They claim the title is only a shadow of the past and was impressive only in its own era. Gray silently listens as they list famous recipients. The group laughs contemptuously. Every one of them was a miserable failure. Even present-day candidates like us know that. Images of Sword Saint Ami, Great Sage Bella, and Divine Archer Jacob Bloomfield fill Gray's mind. Called failures, yet their records are legendary. Gray trembles as he realizes all three were core forces in the war against Liquid A. He swallows under intense pressure, staring at the card burning with deep blue energy. Will his name now stand beside theirs? An announcement echoes through the academy. The entrance ceremony begins in 30 minutes. Those who have finished changing are told to gather at the plaza before the main office. Gray and the other freshmen put on formal uniforms with shining emblems and walk excitedly into their first day. At the meeting point, however, several students look around in confusion. This is the plaza before the main office, right? Another asks. There's nothing here. Did we come to the wrong place? As everyone wonders, a man approaches. Oh, please excuse me. He explains that preparations were delayed by a minor mix-up. A student asks. Preparations? The man politely says. Could you all step back a little? I need to place the staircase there. The curious crowd moves aside as a magic circle appears under his feet. Is this far enough? Perfect, the man says with satisfaction. He kneels, places a hand on the plaza, and quietly says, All right. Brilliant golden magic immediately erupts. The dazzling light forces the students to squint. From the empty ground, an enormous white stone staircase forms and rises, curving toward the main hall like a miracle. The man stands and calmly announces, I apologize for the delay. Please choose any seat you like. The crowd freezes and swallows nervously at the academy employee's impossible display. Yes, sir. Even the staff enter like final bosses, testing the students' mental endurance. The freshmen whisper in shock. Was that teleportation magic? Can it move something this enormous? Gray sits on an elegant chair and quietly judges the Academy's extravagance in using high-level magic merely to prepare a ceremony. Excitement fills his eyes. So this is the power of the World Alliance Academy. Looking around the enormous venue, Gray wonders, aren't there far too many seats? If only 30 students passed, why would they need all this space? A purple-haired girl nearby hears him and asks, You don't even know that? The purple-haired young man with a high ponytail beside her answers apologetically. Sorry. Other than using a sword, I've never really studied anything. The girl replies proudly. Then let me explain. As the name says, this academy gathers outstanding students from across the world. She suddenly points upward. Look! They're here. The young man turns and freezes at the magnificent sight. From the clouds emerges a colossal fleet of airships accompanied by dragons filling the sky. The pressure from the flying entities leaves him open-mouthed. The entire plaza trembles beneath the arrival of these enormous war machines. Gray recognizes one of them, the magical airship Strat Queen. He once boarded it while serving in the force that fought Liquid A. It is one of the world's largest airships, yet the Academy has brought it here merely for an entrance ceremony. Gray watches the enormous fleet land in awe. The World Alliance Academy truly is different. Processions of freshmen in immaculate uniforms march proudly through the splendid space. A white-haired man wearing round glasses places a hand on the podium and surveys the thousands below. It seems everyone has gathered. Then let us begin the entrance ceremony. The smiling headmaster officially opens the event. After the long speech, applause fills the huge arena. Gray yawns from the high stands, thinking he expected the World Alliance Academy's ceremony to be extraordinary. Instead, it is like every other formal event, grand in name, but as exhausting as an overlong weekly meeting. Then comes the next announcement. We will now hear greetings from the top student of each course. Leon Hart, top student of the swordsmanship course. Please come forward. A young man sitting beside Gray quietly rises. Yes. Leon Hart walks toward the stage under the attention of every freshman. Whispers spread. Is that him? The one who defeated his examiner in an instant? Another student answers admiringly. Yes. They say his swordsmanship is comparable to the professor's. This is Leon Hart Apiez, a blonde genius with sharp, proud eyes. Gray studies this formidable rival. Standing on the high platform before Academy officials, Leon asks calmly. Just to confirm, I may speak freely, correct? After the school grants permission, he bows. Thank you. Then the atmosphere turns tense as Leon looks directly at the administration and declares. I have a complaint against the Academy. Leon begins. First, to my fellow students, to everyone who earned admission properly, it is an honor to enter this academy with you. He says he hopes they will work together, graduate, contribute to the world, and pursue great goals as members of the prestigious World Alliance Academy. Then his tone changes. Unfortunately, someone among us does not deserve to be here. Leon looks toward the examiners. Isn't that right, Professor Ariel? Ariel is slightly surprised but calmly says every student here passed a strict examination. Even if they are not as strong as Leon, excluding them would be unwise. She coldly asks why he questions them. Leon insists he is not talking about anyone who passed the exam honestly. His gaze sharpens. I am talking about the person who entered through the back door, through your Eye of Heaven's special admission. He has turned the entrance ceremony into a school-wide expose live stream. Ariel silently watches as Leon points at the crowd and shouts. Special admission student, reveal yourself. Return your uniform and leave the academy immediately. The plaza erupts in whispers, and Gray begins sweating. Gray wonders why the hatred is so intense, then realizes one fortunate fact. Leon does not know his face. What a relief. If Gray does not step forward, perhaps he can avoid this disaster. Professor Ariel only smiles with amusement, and remarks that this year's freshmen are lively. Leon growls. Professor, I am completely serious. Stop admitting students through the back door. Before he finishes, Ariel steps close. Her eyes glow strangely behind her glasses. You think you are stronger than that, child? A sudden murderous pressure from the professor makes Leon tremble and sweat. What? He grits his teeth and steadies himself. Of course. Are you saying I am wrong? Seeing his arrogance, Ariel smiles in delight. I like that attitude. Then shall we make a wager? Leon asks blankly. A wager? Ariel confirms. Yes. A dangerous light enters Ariel's eyes as she announces the stakes. My job against that child's enrollment. Leon and Gray both freeze. They cannot believe the professor would gamble her career on a candidate branded a backdoor admission. The school drama has suddenly escalated into a bet over an entire future. Gray exclaims. A wager? Leon looks suspiciously at Ariel. Are you going to make me fight that special admission brat? Ariel waves dismissively and says she would never do something so crude. Then her gaze turns cold. After all, if he fought seriously, you would die. As an educator, I cannot place a student's life in danger. The statement makes veins bulge on Leon's forehead. He glares and roars. Are you provoking me? Ariel replies calmly. I am completely serious. She proposes another format. Let's wager on hunting monsters instead. That will be safer. Besides, you're better at fighting monsters than people, aren't you? Leon falls silent, realizing the professor knows him well. He asks coldly, what exactly is the wager? Ariel raises a finger and explains the simple rules. You will kill monsters I select as targets. Each round will feature a stronger monster. The first person unable to defeat the assigned target loses. She announces the stakes clearly. If he loses, I resign as professor, and every special admission student is expelled. Gray sweats in his seat under the enormous pressure, as Ariel finishes the condition for Leon. If you lose, you must do anything I order. Ariel smiles. What do you think? Leon grips his sword cautiously. Tell me the target monster first. I am confident I can handle any opponent, but I refuse to be dragged into some strange setup. Ariel touches her chin thoughtfully. Let me see. For the first target, she casually suggests. How about a Goblin General? Or is that too easy for you? The image of a huge red-eyed monster covered in savage markings appears, radiating enough pressure to make the students below tremble. Gray wonders in shock why she deliberately chose the exact monster he recently encountered. Leon slams the table. Are you joking? He insists that a Goblin General is not something just anyone can defeat alone. Ariel stays calm and explains that no one must kill it immediately. Let us set the deadline within this year. That should be enough. Leon shouts that if 1 year of training were enough to defeat a calamity of that level, humanity would not have suffered for so long. He demands a realistic target. Suddenly, Leon smiles as though he has seen through everything. I understand. You chose an unbeatable monster, so the wager ends with no winner. He declares that he will not accept it. Ariel walks casually in her high heels and offers one final condition. Then if the result is a tie, you win. Leon looks confused, but Ariel continues. In other words, if that child cannot defeat a Goblin General, I am automatically fired and all special admissions students are expelled. How does that sound? Seeing her confident, almost demonic smile, Leon can only stammer. Are you insane? He is lucky merely to say it and survive. Sweat runs down his face as he senses the outcome may already be decided. Ariel asks whether he has any further objections. Leon cautiously clarifies that the target cannot be a weakened Goblin General, or anything similar. Ariel confirms. Of course. She summons a magical contract and a glowing quill. If you have no questions about the detailed conditions written here, sign it. After thinking, Leon declares, I accept, and signs the magical agreement. Still suspicious, he asks. Do you truly think that child can win? Ariel answers casually. Who knows? And walks away. Academy officials behind them whisper that perhaps Professor Ariel invented this insane wager because she wants an excuse to retire. They mock that she may be past her prime and acting strangely. Meanwhile, Ariel smiles mysteriously. Excellent. The wager has officially begun. Gray sweats in the crowd, realizing he has been dragged into trouble. Then Gray notices something unusual. Wait. Why do I feel as though she included the Goblin General I defeated before enrollment when she said the deadline was any time this year? He realizes the truth in shock. Did the wager end the moment it began? Looking toward Professor Ariel, he marvels at her cunning. She plays dirty. Once the tension settles, an elderly professor opens a book and announces, We will now begin the lesson on fundamental magical knowledge. The mood instantly changes from high-stakes drama to study mode. The professor says that even on the first day, students may not waste a single moment. He begins with the most basic subject, how to use magic. He explains that every body contains an invisible energy called the. By controlling it through the magical circuits within the body, people can manifest power. Gray feels relieved because he heard this theory at his old training camp and should be able to follow the curriculum. His greatest problem is being placed in the same class as Leon Hart. Of every available class, he has ended up beside the person who publicly declared hatred for special admissions students on the first day. Gray thinks desperately, please don't let him discover I am the Eye of Heaven student. He tries to shrink into the background and become invisible. Yet less than 5 minutes into the lecture, the professor points directly at him. You there. You look bored. The lesson started 5 minutes ago and you're already looking elsewhere? You're bold. Gray is shocked to be noticed from the back row and apologizes awkwardly, amazed by the professor's sharp observation. Holding the magic book, the professor challenges him. If you're so confident, why don't you come demonstrate for the class? Surely you can use basic magic. Gray sweats and tries to escape. Professor, with all respect, we belong to the swordsmanship course. I thought not knowing magic would be acceptable. The professor immediately replies that even a warrior using only a sword must understand the basics to cooperate with mages, and at minimum must know what using magic feels like. Gray realizes the professor's explanation of E is exactly what he heard at the old training camp. He wonders whether the spell they are about to learn is the E-bullet. When the professor confirms and asks whether he can use it, Gray answers calmly, Yes. He silently thanks the hellish training of his previous life. Its value has finally appeared. Seeing an opportunity, the professor proposes a friendly match in the classroom and turns to Leon. Leon Hart, you can use E-bullet as well, correct? Leon answers confidently. Of course. He arrogantly reminds the professor that he received formal training in both swordsmanship and magic before enrollment, so putting Gray against him is extremely risky for Gray. The professor coldly answers that no matter how large the skill gap, Gray will not die, and he has no intention of asking Leon to hold back. Then the professor reveals a shocking truth that silences the class. Gray over there is this year's Eye of Heaven student. The room immediately erupts. Gray freezes, sweat pouring down as the secret he worked so hard to hide is exposed directly before his enemy. The professor smiles maliciously, clearly satisfied with the chaos he created. Leon clenches his fist, murderous intent blazing in his eyes. I understand. Then I must teach him some manners. He vows to show Gray what this academy truly is and glares down at him. Come down here! Gray can only tremble and sweat, knowing real trouble has arrived. As the two face each other in the arena, the professor orders them to fire an e-bullet at the opponent when he gives the signal. Gray is deeply anxious because his magical experience amounts to only a few days at a training camp. Though the professor said he would not die, Gray doubts he will leave unscathed. The moment the match begins, Leon Hart gathers brilliant blue energy and declares that he will show Gray the difference in power. With no other choice, Gray grits his teeth and focuses all his will into his palm. To hell with it. The two magical attacks collide head-on, producing a violent explosion that engulfs them both. When the smoke clears, Leon and Gray stare at each other in utter shock and exclaim together. What? This is no longer a friendly spar but a disaster-level event. Leon trembles as power far beyond his control rushes straight toward him. At the critical moment, the professor charges in and casts a brilliant golden barrier to stop the earth-shaking explosion. The other students are knocked down by the shockwave and scream in panic. Leon is thrown far away and groans as he crashes into the ground. The professor rushes over. Leon Hart, are you all right? Leon struggles upright. I am fine. Only then does the professor sigh in relief. I see. Thank goodness. Inside, however, he is horrified. Without the barrier reducing the impact, that attack could have killed Leon. Sweat runs down the professor's face. Not even the Academy's professors can cast an e-bullet that terrifyingly powerful. He turns to Gray with suspicion. What exactly did you just do? Gray stands staring at his hands. Everyone else is panicking, while he is confused about why the attack was so weak. He realizes that the e-bullet technique he learned from the subjugation force in his previous life is completely different from what this academy teaches. Gray wonders whether he used the wrong spell, but the professor confirms it was definitely an e-bullet. However, its quality was entirely different. What Gray created was not ordinary E, but super-compressed E. The professor explains that even faculty members struggle to create such power, yet Gray shaped it into a complete spell in an instant. He declares that no one else in the academy could reproduce what Gray just did. The students whisper that the Eye of Heaven admission must exist for natural talent like this, and that Gray should have entered the magic course from the beginning. Gray thinks this makes no sense. In his previous life, every spell taught at the subjugation camp worked this way, and he was considered the least talented person there. Looking at the dark energy in his hand, Gray asks casually, Professor, are you teasing me? I think anyone could do this with proper training. His innocent answer leaves the professor frozen before he suddenly bursts into delighted laughter. Gray can only stare, unable to understand what is happening, though he has clearly become the center of attention. The professor suddenly grabs his shoulders and begs him to transfer into the magic course, promising to sponsor him personally. He insists Gray possesses far more natural talent for magic than swordsmanship. His career recommendation changes faster than a game's meta. Gray awkwardly tries to refuse because he has always believed he is bad at magic. The professor shouts that understanding and creating super-compressed E at such a young age makes him an unprecedented genius by every academy standard. The excited professor cries, I don't know what idiot told you that you lack talent, but they clearly had no idea what they were saying. Gray, are you certain you don't want to transfer to the magic course? The students whisper in amazement. A professor who rarely praises anyone is going this far? The professor looks deadly serious. No matter what, it would be a loss to the world if you did not study magic. I would even call it a crime against magic. Gray smiles awkwardly at the excessive enthusiasm, but his mind catches on one phrase. Wait. What did he just say? Compressing E? A memory from his previous life returns, recalling a lecture from a female professor. In the past, people did not know about OD, also called life force. That made proper spellcasting extremely difficult. Warriors had to repeatedly compress E inside the body, then collect and use the tiny fragments that happened to mix with OD. Looking back, the method was ridiculous. Back in the present, Gray asks cautiously, "Professor, do you know about OD?" The professor only stares with question marks in his eyes. OD? What is that? Gray confirms the shocking truth from his reaction. This era still does not know OD exists. That means everything he learned in the subjugation force is knowledge from the future. He warns himself to be extremely careful about whom he tells. The professor asks once more, "So, will you transfer to the magic course?" Gray places a hand on his chest and declines politely. "I'm sorry, but I love swordsmanship. I truly appreciate your offer, but I must refuse." The clean answer leaves Professor Carlos Lost deeply disappointed. "If that is your wish, I cannot force you. But if you ever change your mind, come to me at any time. Any time at all." Gray smiles. "Thank you very much for the offer." Carlos waves him back to his seat and gives special permission. "You may sit down. I won't blame you for ignoring the lecture. Even if you become bored and leave, I won't mind." He insists the lesson is far too basic for Gray's level. The surrounding students marvel that Professor Carlos Lost values him so highly. Even the blonde student who doubted Gray begins switching from hater to devoted fan. Suddenly, a chill runs down Gray's spine. As evening falls, he receives a short note. "Come to my office after class today. Ariel." Gray walks nervously through the empty corridor. The summons was abrupt, and he wonders whether Professor Carlos Lost arranged it. Standing before an intricately carved wooden door bearing a glowing red eye, Gray wonders whether Professor Ariel also intends to urge him to change courses. He knocks softly, and a voice inside answers, "The door is unlocked." Gray pushes it open. "Excuse me." Suddenly, a sword strike descends directly toward his head. Moving like lightning, he draws his sword and blocks the ambush at the last instant. The impact scatters brilliant sparks across the room. Gray is stunned. His brain had no time to process the danger, yet his body reacted automatically. He stands ready with his sword, watching the attacker get knocked backward and fall to the floor in surprise. What the hell just happened? Gray stares at the unfamiliar blue-haired girl and feels an unexplainable sense of familiarity. "I feel like I've met her somewhere before." Looking into her pale golden eyes and light blue hair, that strange familiarity returns. In the suffocating silence, Professor Ariel's voice comes from behind. "Well, not bad." Ariel sits casually in a chair with a satisfied smile. "I knew my judgment was correct." However, the two professors beside her look suspicious. One asks, "Bella, you raised your hand at the last moment, didn't you? Did Ariel tell you to go easy on him?" The other adds, "Your movement was flawless, but having your sword knocked away that easily looked unnatural." Hearing the name, Gray freezes as sweat runs down his face. Bella? Is she truly Bella Unbright, the future great sage? Ariel narrows her eyes at her colleagues. "Are you seriously saying that? If you cannot even tell whether she held back, you should resign as professors." The gentle sentence hits like a hammer. Under Ariel's pressure, the two immediately retreat. "We were only joking." Watching Ariel casually toss coins while the two professors look frightened, Gray asks blankly, What are the professors doing?" Ariel smiles brightly. "We made a bet on whether you could block Bella's surprise attack. Thanks to you, I earned quite a lot." The game directly involved Gray's life, yet she casually flicks him a coin. "Here is your share." Gray catches it and nearly drops his jaw when he realizes it is solid gold. "A gold coin? Isn't this worth a fortune?" The mustached professor watches thoughtfully and admits internally that everything happened exactly as Ariel predicted. From the brief clash, the professor concludes that Gray deliberately avoided using his dominant arm, as though protecting a completely immobile limb. He wonders whether it is an injury, but says it does not resemble ordinary muscle damage. It seems deeper. His colleague agrees. A simple injury would not cause that. Gray sweats. You can tell that much just by looking? The professor smiles. If we could not, we would not be professors here. He also reveals that Ariel noticed it during the entrance exam. Ariel then dismisses the two colleagues and says Gray is her student, so she will not hand him over to anyone. Before leaving, the professors admit, we acknowledge that he has potential, at least for now. The mustached professor looks back sharply at Gray. But if that injury does not heal, you still failed to meet the Academy's admission standards. Remember that. Gray silently watches them disappear through the door. Once the troublesome men are gone, Ariel turns to him with a calculating look. Now that the nuisances are gone, let's talk about magic. Ariel interlaces her fingers, her eyes glowing mysteriously as she goes directly to the subject she prepared from the beginning. She mentions the supercompressed tea he used in Professor Carlos's class. Gray can only say, so you already know? Ariel sips coffee and reveals that Carlos ran straight to her office demanding that Gray be transferred to the magic course. Naturally, she refused him outright. Her sharp gaze seems to see through Gray behind the glowing monocle. I think you are better suited to a sword than magic. She insists he does not look like someone skilled at compressing E and shows no sign of ever having trained it. Gray sweats, realizing her eye can see through everything with a glance. It would be best not to lie. He takes a small sip of tea and admits, you're right. Ariel changes her tone and offers a suitable reward if he reveals the trick he used, promising absolute secrecy. She leans close and pleads, I truly need to know for this girl's sake. She means Bella. Gray nearly calls her the great sage and realizes he must watch every word. Ariel explains that Bella is a genius in magical theory but completely helpless in practice. Because she cannot use compression, she cannot create supercompressed E. Gray remembers the rumor that Bella on Bright was a late-blooming talent and finally understands the real reason. Ariel continues, according to Professor Carlos, when you used supercompressed E, it did not look as though you compressed anything at all. Ariel hopes that if there is a method of creating supercompressed E without the compression step, Bella will not be sent to Professor Bradley. Hearing the name, Gray nearly loses his composure. Professor Bradley? You mean Varian Bradley? His eyes widen in horror. Ariel studies his reaction. Yes. It seems you know him. Gray falls silent. Of course he knows. The man is infamous. Memories return of Varian Bradley's cruel human experiments that killed countless innocent people. He also caused massive magical disasters that claimed thousands of lives. Behind his glasses and mad smile, he became the worst magical criminal in history. Gray wonders in shock, has he not been arrested yet in this era? Ariel reveals the bitter truth. If Bella cannot create supercompressed E by the end of the year, she will be sent to him for surgery. Gray's eyes glow red with terror. What? Wait. Isn't that a terrible idea? Ariel nods. Though the surgery is supposedly meant to enhance magical ability, it is actually human experimentation. The rumors that Bradley's victims died or became disabled are true. Bella speaks slowly. It is dangerous and frightening, but I will be expelled at the end of the year if I cannot use supercompressed E. Ariel looks at her student with sorrow. Honestly, I would rather let you leave school than allow that man to touch your body. Across from them, Gray sips his tea while his mind struggles. The magic he knows does not yet exist in this era. Revealing it could alter history. Seeing Bella's hands trembling on her knees, Gray remembers the painful, burning future and feels deeply sorry for her. Then he smiles faintly. Why not? That hellish future should be changed. He sets his cup firmly on the table. I understand. Gray looks directly at them. I will teach you how to use supercompressed E. Dark blue-black energy swirls powerfully in his palm. The scene shifts to the Academy's broad arena, where Gray draws complex magical diagrams on a blackboard and explains energy flow and the structure of the human body. Walking through the empty stands afterward, Gray sighs. That is everything I know about magic. As promised, please do not tell anyone that I taught you. Ariel smiles and reminds him they signed a magical contract. Breaking it would kill both of them. Gray asks curiously, What do you think after hearing all of that? Ariel holds her head, still overwhelmed. Learning about OD alone was enough to make my brain explode, but the magical knowledge you revealed goes far beyond that. Bella cannot hide her admiration. She feels as though she attended a magic class from hundreds of years in the future. Her eyes shine as she says Gray's explanation has advanced magical history by a full century. Gray looks at her worshipful expression and thinks that this is actually her own lecture from 10 years in the future. Still, to people of this era, it truly is advanced. Ariel folds her arms suspiciously. There is too much information to evaluate accurately. Do you think what he said is true? Bella studies the formulas on the board and says the theory is probably correct because nothing contradicts current magical principles. Looking toward the fading horizon, she adds, the fastest way to find out is to test it. That is why we came here. Holding Gray's notes, Bella thinks, if everything you said is true, Gray, this spell will work. Standing in the empty arena, she declares solemnly, according to that theory, this is my full power. She raises her staff. A gigantic magic circle covered in complex golden patterns erupts at once. Gray sweats behind her. Your full power? Inside, he trembles as he remembers the future great sage. If I remember correctly, wasn't Bella on Bright's maximum power capable of burning an entire city? Then Gray remembers an even worse detail. She was said to be unable to properly control her terrifying magical energy. The light from the circle suddenly expands across his entire vision. Bella murmurs, "Huh!" Realizing the spell has gone out of control, Gray barely has time to scream. Wait! Just a moment! A colossal pillar of energy shoots from the magic circle into the sky, producing an explosion of light that shakes the entire academy. Facing the blazing energy swallowing everything, Gray raises an arm to shield himself and thinks in shock, what terrifying power. He realizes he has narrowly escaped death. If Bella had not controlled the spell at the final moment, Gray would certainly have died. It truly saved his life. Bella, however, looks ecstatic. She raises her staff and cheers. I did it! I even managed to control it! This is so much fun! An enormous fire dragon rises from the wreckage and coils majestically under her command. But immediately after that triumphant moment, Bella's face turns pale. But I'm out of E now. Her stamina hits 0 after one excessive combo. She staggers and collapses. Gray rushes forward, catches her, and shouts her name. Professor Ariel calmly reassures him. Calm down. She only fell asleep from exhausting her E. Let her rest. Looking at Bella in his arms, Gray smiles in relief. Ariel cannot hide her admiration. Still, that was wonderful. Think about it. She cast magic on that scale after such a short time. Even unconscious, Bella mumbles. It wasn't because I'm talented. That theory made supercompressed E easy to create. Gray sweats as she responds even in her sleep. But it was your theory. Ariel sighs with relief and folds her arms contentedly. Now that she can create supercompressed E, she no longer needs that surgery. I will personally tell Bradley to cancel it. More importantly, I'm glad she did not lose control of her magic. Gray asks. Lose control? Ariel confirms that while Bradley's surgery can increase magical output, the price is control. She reveals that although the procedure is secret, it appears to be a forced surgery designed to break the body's natural limits. Gray finally understands. Could that surgery be the reason the heroine mage in his previous life could never control her overwhelming magic? Another piece of future history begins falling into place. Ariel interrupts his thoughts. In any case, thanks to you, Bella can now create supercompressed E, so you have fulfilled the terms of our agreement. She smiles knowingly. Now it is my turn to keep my promise. First, let us deal with your arm. There is a spell I want to use on it. Right now. Ariel reaches toward Gray and casts a brilliant spell, surrounding his injured arm with mystical blue butterflies. Pure energy seeps into every strand of muscle, and the cracks gradually disappear beneath the shimmering light. Ariel asks gently, How does it feel? Gray stares at his hands in shock. He moves each finger one by one, astonished as life returns to the limb. I can move it again. Unable to hide his excitement, he cries. Thank you so much, Professor! Yet Gray is still confused. Even high-grade healing medicine could not repair this injury, but she did it effortlessly. Ariel smiles proudly. Humph. Do not compare my nerve restoration magic with ordinary medicine. She looks at him challengingly. But does it truly work as well as before? Swing your sword and find out. Gray tests his newly healed arm with a sword swing, but immediately stops and stares suspiciously at the hand gripping the hilt. He senses something wrong. It does not move as smoothly as before. Ariel calmly explains from behind him. I may have repaired your nerves, but my magic cannot heal the wound in your soul. Gray turns in shock. My soul? Ariel says that although modern magical theory has not proven the soul exists, she is certain that it does. She adjusts her glasses as a mysterious star-shaped symbol glows in her eye. After all, I can see it with these eyes. Gray's soul appears as a deep blue sphere of energy bound by glowing chains. Ariel reassures him that it is healing naturally as long as he does not overexert himself. Gray asks anxiously, Should I reduce my sword training? Ariel waves the concern away and tells him to train normally. Still, she is intensely curious about what kind of swordsmanship could wound the soul so deeply. Gray can only sweat and smile awkwardly at his professor's terrifying insight. Ariel continues, Besides, there is already one known style that controls a sword through the soul. Gray looks confused until she suddenly says Ami's name and studies his reaction. You know her, do you not? Gray freezes as memories of Sword Saint Ami surface in his mind. Why would Ariel mention her now? At this point in history, they should not even know each other. Seeing his reaction, Ariel tilts her head. Did I guess wrong? The way you swing your sword feels as though Ami taught you. Ariel studies him more carefully. On second thought, it is slightly different. Whoever taught you seems even more skilled than Ami. She adds that within a few years, Ami will probably reach his master's level. Even a future top-tier legend is apparently only equal to someone else's student for now. Gray breaks into a cold sweat at her insight. She can tell that much? He hurriedly makes an excuse. I only studied at a small dojo in my hometown. Realizing he may expose everything if this continues, he changes the subject. Can sword training alone damage the soul? Ariel answers coldly. Absolutely not. At least, not any ordinary swordsmanship. She adds that nothing ordinary could defeat a Goblin General with one slash, let alone cut down the surrounding goblins and trees as well. Gray stiffens. She already knows. Ariel smiles. Of course I do. Thanks to you, I nearly won my bet. She explains that she examined the destruction left at the scene, and it was so magnificent that even the most advanced cutting magic could not reproduce it. You used the mysterious power inside you, did you not? Gray asks in shock. You can see it? Standing in the sunset-lit arena, Ariel answers decisively. Of course I can. Her special eye glows as she looks deep inside him. I can see power leaking through that chained gate. Gray stares in disbelief as the image of the chained gate returns to his mind. She truly sees it. No one could have guessed that by chance. Ariel casually continues. Come to think of it, I have seen a power similar to yours before. She says the two are probably not identical, but they feel remarkably alike. Gray becomes suspicious. Someone else possesses a power like mine? Ariel nods. Yes, although I am not certain they can be called human. She then speaks the name coldly. Liquid. The Destroyer. Gray's eyes widen in shock. So that is what they are called. Seeing his reaction, Ariel chuckles. So you have heard of them. Gray's mind erupts with one question. Why is that name already known in this era? Ariel sighs after realizing he recognizes it. Honestly, I did not expect it to be so famous. Looking at the magical diagrams on the board, she adds. But considering that your theories seem to come from the future, perhaps I should not be surprised. Gray privately admits that they truly are future theories, even if no one has realized it yet. Ariel studies him and asks, How much do you know about Liquid? After a long silence, Gray says only that it is an extremely dangerous threat to humanity. Remembering the Destroyer surrounded by black energy on the battlefield, he declares firmly, It must be stopped before it appears. If that is impossible, it must be destroyed at any cost. Ariel rests her chin on one hand. A little extreme, perhaps, but I agree that it is dangerous. Then she reveals that Bolly Bradley still seems determined to continue his experiments. Gray asks in shock, Bolly? What does he have to do with this? Ariel gives him a meaningful look. What else? Liquid A is the entity he is trying to summon. Gray freezes as sweat runs down his face. Liquid A was created by humans? No one in his previous life ever said that. He begins connecting the clues. The Academy in the previous timeline had acted as though it knew exactly where Liquid A would appear. Memories of the Academy's enormous airship fleet return. A horrifying theory forms in Gray's mind. Do not tell me the Academy was involved in summoning it from the beginning. Gray stares at the Academy's majestic structures with overwhelming suspicion. He insists that the experiment must be stopped immediately. Ariel agrees, but admits that she lacks the authority to interfere because the man behind it is also a professor. She has pressured her superiors to cancel the project, but they ignored her completely. When Gray asks who those superiors are, Ariel avoids the question. Sorry, I am not authorized to tell you. She says that without an order from above, no one can force the experiment to stop. Gray realizes that the Academy's leadership is far more complicated and tangled than he imagined. Then he thinks the situation would change if they could prove Bolly is a criminal. Memories of his previous life return, where Bolly's illegal experiments cost tens of thousands of lives. Gray says he knows where those crimes are taking place. If we catch him in the act, we can expose everything. But Ariel immediately rejects the plan. Breaking into another professor's research facility without permission is already a serious crime. Unless they bring undeniable evidence, they will be the ones imprisoned. She studies him closely. Unless you already possess proof of his crimes. Gray falls silent in frustration, and Ariel concludes that they must set the matter aside for now. Clenching his fist, Gray bitterly realizes that even Ariel is powerless despite understanding the danger. Seeing him fall quiet, Ariel suddenly changes the subject. More importantly, let us discuss your power. Do you not want to learn how to control it? Gray asks in surprise. You can help me do that? Ariel smiles confidently and reveals that the Academy has a professor who specializes in mysterious and unidentified powers. Gray immediately realizes who she means, head instructor Long Fao. Ariel confirms it, and tells him that the professor is an expert in spiritual and physical power. Seeing his excitement, Ariel smiles smugly. I knew you would be interested. I will arrange private training with him starting tomorrow. Gray clenches his fist and cries. Please do! His main reason for coming to the Academy was to master this power, and he cannot believe he found a clue so quickly. The scene shifts to the Academy Stadium, where head instructor Long Fao begins Gray's brutal training. Drenched in sweat, Gray struggles to keep up with the figure ahead. He cannot believe he is receiving personal instruction from Long Fao himself. But why are they doing nothing except running? Long Fao's roar immediately shakes him from his thoughts. Your mind is wandering. I can feel it. If you have time for useless thoughts, run faster. Keep going until your body reaches its absolute limit. He warns sternly. Only after you burn through every last drop of physical strength will your spiritual power truly awaken. As long as you have even a little stamina left, we will not touch a sword. Understood? Gray forces out an answer. Yes, sir. He tells himself that Long Fao's training must have a deeper purpose, yet anxiety weighs heavily on him. While he runs in circles, Bolly is continuing the experiments meant to summon the destroyer. He wonders whether this is truly what he should be doing now. 1 week of training passes, and Gray visits Professor Ariel's office. She asks, How are things going with Long Fao? Gray scratches his head. Honestly, it has mostly been running. We only practice with swords a little at the very end, but I really do feel stronger. Ariel smiles. That sounds exactly like him. A knock suddenly sounds at the door. Excuse me. A courier enters and hands Ariel an envelope. Professor Ariel, a letter has just arrived for you. Ariel accepts it with thanks. But the moment she reads the contents, her expression turns dark and tense. Noticing the change, Gray asks what happened. He takes the letter and reads it in shock. It is from Bailey and Bradley. The letter states, I received the report that Bella on Bright successfully created supercompressed E. It appears she achieved a power similar to it. However, testing confirms that she did not truly compress the energy. Therefore, her new ability cannot be recognized as supercompressed E. The contract remains valid, and the surgery will proceed as scheduled. Gray's eyes burn red with rage. This is insane. Gray says bitterly that Bradley is determined to force the surgery even though Bella no longer needs it. He asks whether she can refuse, but Ariel can only clasp her hands helplessly. Unfortunately, the contract has no loophole. Unless Bradley personally cancels it, Bella has only two options: undergo the surgery or be expelled. Gray can only stare in disbelief. That cannot be. Ariel slams her hand onto the desk, her eyes harder than ever. Gray, I need your help. Tell me where Bradley's laboratory is. She says that if they expose his crimes, the contract will become void. Gray looks surprised, then reminds her of her own warning. Did you not say it would be too dangerous without evidence? Ariel closes her eyes thoughtfully. Then we will find the evidence. I am placing my faith in you. No, perhaps I believed you from the beginning. Her eye glows behind the monocle as she admits. These eyes have told me that you were speaking the truth all along. I simply took too long to accept it. Gray listens in silence, his red eyes serious under the weight of her absolute trust. Ariel gives the order. Lead the way, Gray. Together, we will drag his crimes into the light. She turns away as deep blue magic gathers around her body. Gray reveals the location. Bali's laboratory lies in the mountains near Toro village. Ariel repeats the name thoughtfully. She remembers that Bali does indeed have an academy-approved research facility there. Gray realizes how cunning the enemy is. He has been conducting illegal experiments inside a legitimate laboratory. Ariel smiles and explains that it is the perfect hiding place, because no one would question how long he stayed there. On top of that, professors follow an unwritten rule never to interfere with one another's research areas, giving Bali even more freedom to commit his crimes. Once they find evidence, the break-in will no longer be the real legal issue. At that moment, a knock interrupts them. Bella enters with a pale face and a letter in her hand. Professor, I just received this. Seeing her student's fear, Ariel takes the letter and reassures her firmly. Do not worry. I will handle this. Bella trembles. Professor, are you planning to confront Varian alone because of me? All by yourself? Ariel answers only with a confident, mysterious smile. She declares, I am enough. The light reflecting from her monocle makes her look even more imposing. But Gray cannot stand aside. He steps forward and blocks her path. Please wait. I am going with you. Bella also gathers her courage, grips the hem of her clothes, and says firmly, So am I. This is my problem, and I cannot keep running from it. Ariel tries to stop them. Wait. He is an academy professor, and more than that, a madman who has repeatedly performed dangerous experiments on human bodies. If he captures either of you, there is no telling what he will do. I cannot take you to a place like that. Gray steps closer and counters. That is exactly why going alone is too dangerous. If I use the power that defeated the Goblin General, I can help you. Besides, if you disappear, Professor, then as a student admitted through the All-Seeing Eye program, I will be expelled as well. Gray looks directly into Ariel's eyes. Please, at least let us decide our own fate. Seeing the determination in both Gray and Bella, Ariel sighs in resignation. It sounds as though you would go even if I forbade it. Then I will allow it on one condition. Ariel's expression turns deadly serious. No matter what happens, your own safety comes first. Do you understand? Gray and Bella answer firmly. Yes. Night falls over towering snowy mountains, where a strange and ominous structure stands in the darkness. Gray, Bella, and Ariel hide behind bushes and observe from a distance. Gray asks quietly, Is he truly conducting illegal experiments here? Ariel nods. Yes, and we are going to find the evidence now, correct? Gray stares at the building as sweat runs down his cheek. Yes. This is definitely the place. Bella looks at the dark laboratory. If you say so, I believe you. But can we really collect evidence without causing trouble? Ariel reassures her that Varian is attending a conference of the Magic Association, so he should not be here. However, she warns that the main entrance is probably trapped, meaning they must break through the side wall. When Bella worries, Ariel casually says that entering an Academy-approved laboratory without permission is already a crime anyway. She smiles challengingly and tells Bella she is free to turn back. Gray grips his sword and declares, "I am going." Bella still feels guilty and asks whether the professor truly intends to risk everything for someone like her. Gray cuts her off. "You are wrong. Stopping his experiments is for the sake of the entire world. If we fail, countless people will die. No, the whole world may be sacrificed." Bella asks in shock what he means. Ariel calms her, saying Gray may be exaggerating, but she agrees that Bali must be stopped. She tells Bella not to worry because they are not risking their lives only for her. With a confident smile, Ariel gives the order, and all three launch forward like arrows. Ariel raises one hand and summons blazing magic circles. A massive burst of energy tears through the laboratory wall, blowing every obstacle away in an instant. Gray surveys the devastation and smiles bitterly. "That may have been a little excessive." Gray, Ariel, and Bella step through the rubble. Gray's red eyes contract at the horrifying sight. Thin arms are chained to the walls, and bodies lie scattered everywhere. Ariel looks down coldly. "It seems we no longer need to search very hard for evidence." Surveying the enormous laboratory, she identifies 14 forms of forbidden magic, along with illegal human experimentation. At the center, a magical altar emits an eerie purple glow. Bella trembles. "What should we do now? Our original plan was to collect evidence and leave, but should we rescue the prisoners first?" Gray urges them anxiously. "We should not stay too long. If we waste time, Varian may return." Suddenly, a deep voice echoes through the room. "Oh? Were you calling for me?" All three spin around in shock. Ariel narrows her eyes as a dark figure approaches. The newcomer is Varian, smiling sinisterly behind purple lenses. He casually reveals that he sent a substitute to the conference, so he could return here for an important experiment. Ariel asks suspiciously, "An important experiment?" Varian admits that he recently obtained several fresh materials and wanted to use them while they were still fresh. However, after seeing Gray's group reflected in his glasses, he pushes the frames upward and announces, "The plan has changed." Ariel, Bella, and Gray tense under the murderous aura pouring from him. Varian says he has been searching for materials with unusually high magical potential. He wonders how they discovered his secret, but assumes they came without informing anyone else. "If all of you suddenly disappear at the same time," Varian grins madly, exposing white teeth and glowing eyes, "no one will ever suspect me." Gray demands to know what he means by materials. "Do you intend to turn us into test subjects?" Bali answers calmly. "Relax. Your sacrifice will help expand the boundaries of magic itself." He smiles grotesquely and says that since he cannot allow them to leave alive, he will make the greatest possible use of them. Suddenly, a pillar of blazing energy erupts, making Bali grunt in surprise. A violent explosion engulfs the area in blinding light. Ariel and Bella narrow their eyes against the crushing pressure. Bella grips her staff, determination shining in her eyes as she prepares for the danger ahead. Amid the brilliant purple magic, Bali praises them with delight. "Ah, magnificent. Truly wonderful. Ariel's all-seeing eye has not lost its sharpness." He studies Gray and says it is unbelievable for a specially admitted student to possess such talent. The discovery makes him consider targeting the other all-seeing eye recruits as well. Bali smiles madly before someone mocks him. "I am not impressed by your little performance." Varian scoffs that an academy student is trying to assassinate a professor. Bella tightens her grip on her staff. "Killing is still better than being killed." Yet she has just missed the perfect chance to finish him. Ariel quickly orders, "We are leaving. We already have enough evidence." Gray agrees that the academy can handle the rest. But Bali's haunting voice follows them. "Do you really think I will let you leave so easily?" A pillar of sinister purple-black energy erupts. Ariel roars and pours all her strength into a brilliant golden barrier against the lethal attack. Behind her, Bella can only scream, "Professor!" Varian smiles triumphantly and declares that all resistance is useless. This is the culmination of his research, the flame of greed. He explains that the flame devours defensive magic and converts it into fuel, making itself exponentially stronger. In theory, it is an attack that cannot be stopped. Its only weakness is the extremely rare material required to summon it. Before Ariel's shocked eyes, the powerful barrier begins to crack and crumble beneath the black flames. As chaotic energy swallows everything, she struggles upright and pulls out a magical memory pouch. Ariel shouts at her terrified student, "Bella, take this memory pouch to Gray immediately." She says that once head instructor Longfaust sees it, he will know exactly how to reverse the situation. Ariel stands alone against the approaching black flames and screams, "Go!" Bella steps forward with a glowing mass of magic in her hand. "Professor, your barrier is breaking. Let me handle this." Ariel remembers the promise they made and orders Bella to protect her own life. Varian's magic is too abnormal for ordinary defensive spells to stop. As the barrier shatters under the pressure, Fodder remains strangely calm. "It will be fine." Blue light erupts and collides directly with Varian's purple flames, creating a violent explosion. Fodder stands firm inside the storm of energy. "This magic is not actually that powerful. It only requires a slightly different kind of defense." Seeing his prized attack neutralized so easily, Varian screams in horror. "Impossible! Only our faction knows the anti-magic theory for the flame of greed. How could you know it?" Fodder answers coldly that she recently learned a new theory, and it makes countering this magic extremely simple. Varian grinds his teeth in disbelief. "Someone taught you?" He roars in rage and demands the traitor's name, threatening her with a painful death if she refuses. Bella lowers her head. "You want to know who taught me?" She looks up with a challenging smile. "That is a secret." She remembers her conversation with Gray, when Ariel still doubted him because he was merely a swordsmanship student. Yet Bella trusted Gray's formulas because they were completely logical and did not contradict established magical theory. Gray had looked exactly like a suspicious hidden genius. In truth, he had simply reconstructed everything from knowledge he retained from his previous life. Back in the present, Varian realizes he will receive no serious answer. "Fine." He raises a brilliant red crystal. His purple eyes flash with murderous intent. "Then burn alive." He crushes the red crystal in his hand, releasing an incomparably cold and sinister power. Black energy erupts at once, transforming into ghostly skulls and an enormous fanged mouth that seems ready to devour every living thing in the room. The black flames crash down like a storm, surrounding the group with suffocating pressure. Gray shouts anxiously, "Fodder, are you all right?" Standing inside the energy storm, Bella grits her teeth and channels power through her staff to maintain the barrier. "I am fine. It can still hold." Varian smiles evilly, already seeing her limit. "But your reserves will not last, will they? With that amount of power, you have 1 minute at most." Realizing the danger, Bella urges, "Master, attack him. I will put everything into defense." Ariel answers decisively, "Understood." Her magical eye glows behind the monocle and quickly locates an opening. The flames are thinning at that point. She can launch magic through the barrier. Ariel presses her hand against the shield. Brilliant blue lightning gathers and dances around her palm before a massive blue spell shoots forward like an arrow of light. But Varian stands proudly behind the wall of purple-black fire. "Trying to counterattack? You cannot even touch me." Ariel's powerful spell is swallowed and neutralized by the flame of greed. She grits her teeth after realizing the attack was completely useless. Gray analyzes the situation. Ariel's offensive magic is among the weakest of the professors, and the flame of greed absorbs magical energy. Every attack only feeds the enemy. Bella begins to stagger. "What do we do now?" "I am almost out of energy." Ariel looks at her students apologetically. "This is why I told you to run from the beginning." At the most desperate moment, something changes. Gray suddenly steps forward, determination blazing in his eyes. Leave it to me. Fodder stares at his back in shock. Gray, what are you planning? Your sword cannot reach him from here. Gray answers calmly. It will reach him. I am certain. Ariel nearly loses her composure. Are you sure? Using that power again may kill you. Even if you survive, your newly healed arm may never recover. Gray smiles faintly and tightens his grip. Dying alone is still better than all three of us dying here. Do you not agree? Varian's triumphant expression suddenly stiffens as he senses an abnormal pressure. Reflected in his lenses, Gray charges at an impossible speed. Before Varian can understand what happened, Gray cleanly takes his head. The laboratory falls into suffocating silence. Varian has been completely defeated by Gray's lethal slash. Bella stands frozen and stammers. What? Watching the mad professor die before her, Ariel silently studies the destruction through her monocle. This is her first time witnessing the real thing, and it is astonishing. Gray's slash carries enough force to split the laboratory's structure itself. Bella looks up in panic as stone begins falling. The ceiling! The entire structure starts collapsing after the devastating attack, while Ariel walks forward calmly through the rubble. She gestures for everyone to remain calm and surveys the red energy cracks dancing across the ruined chamber. With a knowing smile, she says, Goodness, that exceeded my expectations. Then she turns to Gray in concern. More importantly, is your body all right? Gray looks from his sword to his trembling right arm, now covered in strange dark marks. My dominant arm hurts badly. It has also gone numb. Still, he tightens his grip and says firmly, But I can move it. Ariel smiles proudly. It appears your training is producing results. Gray nods. In the past, using that power in the village would have left him unconscious for days and unable to move either arm. Now it leaves only one arm in pain. That alone is tremendous progress. The training truly was worth it. Gray remembers the brutal sessions and Long Fao's warning that spiritual power awakens only after every last drop of physical strength is exhausted. Ariel looks thoughtfully at Gray's back. Thanks to you, we are alive. Still, I am sorry you had to use that power. Gray reassures her that stopping Varian was his own decision, so she has no reason to feel guilty. Ariel thanks him, but her expression turns grave. If possible, do not use that power again for some time. Otherwise, the damage to your soul may become irreversible. Gray accepts the warning, then hesitantly asks whether what he used can truly be called magic. Ariel is equally puzzled because she sensed no trace of E in the attack. Bella admits that explaining such overwhelming power through the language of magic seems impossible. Recognizing how dangerous this knowledge is, Ariel orders her not to investigate it further and never to reveal what she witnessed. When Bella reacts in shock, Ariel warns that if she cannot promise silence, Ariel will erase her memories immediately. Bella is thoroughly intimidated by the professor's glowing eye and quickly agrees. To ensure the secret remains protected forever, she proposes a magical contract, and Ariel accepts. Brilliant magical energy surrounds them, formally binding the oath before Gray. Once the contract is complete, Bella looks toward the victims lying in the cages and says they must rescue them first. Gray examines the scene and realizes they are only under deep sleep magic. Their lives are not currently in danger, but he suggests taking everyone to the Academy medical facility. Ariel immediately casts a grand spell, filling the room with golden light and surrounding the victims in protective magical spheres. She says the barriers will shield them from outside harm for now. After securing the victims, the group proceeds deeper into the facility. Ariel is horrified by the scale of Varian's madness, with illegal experiments stretching beyond sight. Most involve sacrificing humans to create magical catalysts, or forcibly enhancing test subjects. Yet even deep inside, Ariel finds no trace of Liquid A and wonders whether it is hidden elsewhere. Gray grows increasingly uneasy. In his previous life, tens of thousands died in a disaster at this exact place. How could the production of ordinary magical catalysts cause destruction on that scale? His eyes sharpen as he remembers a crucial detail. The people were killed by miasma erupting from underground. Ariel notices his reaction and asks, "What is it?" Bella also calls his name when he stands motionless. Gray reasons that if the disaster came from below, something must be hidden beneath the facility. Gray suggests there may be secret underground passages. Ariel immediately activates her glowing magical eye and scans the cracked stone floor. At first, she finds nothing. Then her gaze stops. No. Wait. She rushes toward a body lying on the floor, kneels, and focuses her magical eye on an abnormal point beneath the stone. Ariel detects faint traces of short-range teleportation magic. She concludes that a hidden space can probably be reached only by teleportation. From the remaining energy, she estimates a distance of roughly 300 meters and says something is definitely concealed on the other side. Gray asks in amazement whether they can reach 300 meters underground. Ariel confidently says she can open a similar portal and let them try their luck. She snaps her fingers, activating brilliant magic. A giant magic circle ignites beneath all three. Ariel warns that if nothing exists at the destination, they will be buried inside the earth. Red light engulfs the space and carries them through layers of rock. The moment they arrive, Gray and Bella are rendered speechless. Before them stretches an enormous underground city filled with countless white buildings. Ariel is stunned by the scale of the hidden space. She senses a vast amount of throughout the city, especially from a dome-shaped structure at its center. Her magical eye contracts in horror. The energy leaking out is not only but another power entirely, stronger than anything she has ever encountered. Gray stares at the central building and asks whether it could be what he fears. Sweating, Ariel confirms that it is the power of Liquid A. The three climb the towering steps leading into the magnificent domed structure. Standing before a deep entrance, Gray wonders. A door? Ariel studies the vast interior, where an enormous stone slab bearing an unusual symbol sits at the center of a complex magic circle. Humph. The power definitely comes from here, but I still see no sign of Liquid A. Ariel approaches and touches the cold surface of the mysterious door. Bella anxiously warns her. Are you sure we should touch that? Ariel remains calm and reassures her. Relax. This door contains no power at all. She explains that it is only a ceremonial symbol. The real power is not inside the door. Her sharp gaze shifts to the glowing purple tanks surrounding them. It is inside those magical devices. The moment Ariel finishes speaking, the entire chamber begins to shake. Violent purple electricity dances through the air. Gray shouts in alarm. What is happening? Are you trying to summon Liquid A? Bella also trembles under the crushing pressure. This magic is too dangerous. We have to stop it immediately. But Ariel stands firm inside the chaotic energy and orders. No. Do not rush in. She calmly explains. According to my calculations, this arrangement cannot actually summon Liquid A. At that moment, space around the door begins to crack, revealing eerie black fissures. Gray cries out as space itself tears open. Fodder is equally shocked as red-black energy pours from the rift. Ariel lets out a small sound of surprise, then says calmly, I knew it. Those devices were never built to summon Liquid A. Bella looks ready to start praying on the spot. She stares at the black energy strands stretching like deadly tentacles as Ariel explains. They are merely opening a small passage directly to the place where that entity exists. Ariel studies the leaking power and says it is being concentrated through a funnel-like system. Pointing to the chained black crystal, she reveals a horrifying possibility. The core used to crystallize that power may be made from human lives. Through her magical eye, she detects roughly 10 souls used so far, though the shaping process may have consumed far more sacrifices. Ariel bitterly suspects that most of the people upstairs were turned into raw material. Bella asks why anyone would go this far for power, and what their true objective could be. Ariel recalls the black flame variant used in battle and says the crystal that amplified it is what these materials become when completed. She warns that if mass-produced, the catalyst would not be limited to fire, and no one knows what they might do with such immense power. As the cracks on the stone slab fade away, Gray becomes suspicious. The cracks are disappearing. So Varian never intended to summon Liquid A from the beginning? Ariel says she does not know whether he was unwilling or simply unable, but the space-opening devices have reached their limit. This is apparently all they can accomplish. Fodder approaches a glowing energy container. I think this device is extraordinarily valuable. I have never seen spatial magic this precise or powerful. Ariel agrees that building even one would consume the budget of an entire nation, yet there are 8 of them here. She says only one organization could possibly fund this. Bella guesses the Disca Empire, but Ariel rejects the idea. Even the world's largest nation lacks the magical research resources to build them. Bella asks shakily, "Then who?" Ariel says the creator must be an organization whose magical research capacity surpasses even the Empire. Gray speaks quietly through Bella's confusion. "The World Alliance Academy. Is that it?" Ariel looks at him approvingly. "Exactly. No other institution has the scale or budget to maintain a facility this enormous." All 3 look up at the giant chained crystal, proof of the cruel investment hidden behind a noble image of knowledge. Bella struggles to accept the truth. "The Academy is behind this? But the World Alliance Academy was created to protect the world from threats." Ariel closes her eyes heavily. "I understand why you do not want to believe it, but no other group could have accomplished this." Gray places a hand over his chest and searches for hope. "That does not mean the entire Academy is our enemy, does it? Most of them may still be on our side." Memories return of the Academy's elite forces fighting on the front lines in his previous life. He remembers them protecting civilians until their final moments, even during the catastrophe. Gray says firmly that after witnessing that future, he cannot believe the Academy itself is humanity's enemy. Ariel agrees that most members truly act for humanity, and would never permit experiments that waste lives. However, with countless researchers and secret facilities, she warns that almost no one in the world can understand the full picture hidden behind the Academy's majestic exterior. Ariel studies the purple tanks and concludes that whoever supported Varian must possess enormous authority. Varian alone could never arrange anything on this scale. Bella asks sadly, "Does that mean we cannot fully trust the Academy either?" After decades observing it from within, Ariel says coldly that it is certainly not an organization to trust blindly. Most people there believe they are doing what is best for humanity. Even those behind this experiment may have convinced themselves that everything serves a greater purpose. The truth appears buried in the darkness along with the ruined facility. Gray looks around the silent chamber and asks hesitantly, "Do you have any idea how to find the mastermind?" Ariel checks the equipment. "There are no communication devices here. Even the creator's magical residue has been erased from the machines, showing a professional effort to eliminate every clue." Ariel starts to add something, but a blinding explosion suddenly erupts behind Bella. Stone and debris fly through the chamber. Gray shouts, "What is happening?" The entire underground city begins collapsing under a chain of explosions. Standing amid the falling rubble, Ariel calmly concludes that they installed a mechanism to destroy the evidence. She wonders why it did not activate immediately after Varian died. Perhaps it was designed to lure investigators inside before erasing them as well. Bella shouts in panic that this is not the time for theories and they need to escape. Ariel smiles arrogantly. "Calm down. It is only magical explosives." She crouches, places a hand on the floor, and activates a powerful golden magic circle. Energy spreads around the entire group. With her eye blazing behind the monocle, Ariel declares that professors of the World Alliance Academy are not weak enough to die to something so trivial. As the ruins collapse, she pours power into the spell and shouts, "Do not step outside the circle." Enormous rocks rain from the ceiling, but golden light envelopes the group just in time to carry them out of the death trap. Back on the surface beneath the bright moon, Ariel sees the rescued victims scattered safely across the grass and sighs in relief. Bella leans exhaustedly on her staff. "I thought we were going to die." Gray is also sweating after the reckless escape and wonders whether that was far too dangerous. Ariel explains that the unexpected amount of additional cargo slowed the teleportation, but says it was worth it as she looks at the recovered purple containers. "Once the Academy sees these, they will no longer be able to ignore us." Back in the main hall of the World Alliance Academy, Ariel reports that the survivors are receiving treatment in the Academy's medical wing. Behind an imposing desk, Headmaster Oradrum Alexandro clasps his hands and thanks the three for stopping Varian's illegal experiments. Then he turns to the magical engines Varian possessed and studies the report. He emphasizes that each engine is worth more than an entire nation's budget. Ariel is shocked that there were 8 and insists Varian could never have assembled such resources alone. The headmaster answers coldly. They were stolen. He reveals that all 78 Academy agents escorting them were killed during the theft. Gray, Ariel, and Bella are stunned by the death toll. Ariel studies the report through her monocle and asks shakily whether this was the incident from 15 years ago. The headmaster confirms that the missing shipment consisted of those very engines. Ariel remembers the organization behind the tragedy as he slowly says the name. Bloodrinker. I assume you have heard of them. Gray recognizes the world's largest criminal organization, parasites that always return no matter how many times they are destroyed. Bella suddenly speaks with hatred burning in her eyes. They are also the ones who killed my parents. The headmaster nods. No one knows where they hide or who leads them, even though they are connected to more than 70% of criminal murders worldwide. He fears their agents may already have infiltrated the academy. Gray feels the danger rising rapidly. The worst part is that they cannot identify the infiltrators, and even if they could, the academy might refuse to intervene. What do you mean? Even if criminals are inside the academy? The headmaster calmly says that this is how the academy currently operates. Anyone with talent receives a chance to become stronger, regardless of bloodline, race, or gender. He emphasizes that criminal status is also considered irrelevant. Bella protests angrily. That is absurd. Criminals should be punished. The headmaster nods. I agree. Unfortunately, those above him do not share that view. Bella asks in shock. But are you not the headmaster? He looks bitterly at the files and admits that he is little more than a subordinate, merely the academy's public face. The actual authority he holds is almost laughable. He asks whether they want to know who truly controls everything. Then become stronger. The more power you prove, the deeper you can advance into the academy, and the more secrets you will uncover. He cannot reveal the name, but says one senior student has enough influence to shape the academy's entire direction. Even the policy of admitting criminals was that student's decision. Gray wonders what happens if they become stronger than him. The headmaster confirms that they could even change the academy itself. In this place, strength is everything. Gray clenches his fist with determination. The headmaster watches with interest because he knows Ariel should have had no chance against Varian. That means one of these 2 students defeated him, and Ariel's all-seeing eye remains as sharp as ever when identifying talent. Watching Gray leave, Headmaster Oradrum smiles with anticipation. He cannot wait to see what kind of monster Ariel will shape. In the empty corridor, Gray looks down at the dark mark still lingering on his hand. Gray now looks every bit like someone about to unlock forbidden power. He feels the cruelty of the academy. So strength truly rules this place. Whether his goal is destroying Liquid A or exposing the dark secrets behind that door, one truth is clear. First, Gray must become stronger. Before he can finish the thought, a powerful kick slams into him. A cold voice says, "Sorry." Then tremendous force sends Gray flying. Gray skids across the floor, raises an arm to protect himself, and grits his teeth through the pain. A stranger with hanging black hair and dark circles approaches, clicking his tongue. "You are tougher than I expected." He looks at Gray with contempt. "A rejected special admissions student like you has no right to walk this hallway." Gray realizes this is another person who hates special students, but it is the first time someone has openly ambushed him in the academy corridor. He grips his sword. "Are you trying to start a fight?" The stranger raises a finger dismissively. "I would love to, but it seems rejected student number 2 has just arrived." He turns away casually and says they will meet again. Gray watches him leave, filled with suspicion. The stranger bites his finger until blood appears, madness shining in his eyes. He silently promises to send another person after Gray soon, then whispers Varian's name like a cruel oath. Ariel approaches and asks worriedly what happened. Gray calmly says, "Professor Ariel, a strange student just kicked me." He explains that the man claimed an all-seeing eye special student like him did not even deserve to walk through the academy corridors. Ariel studies him. No weapon and no visible injury. That means I cannot officially intervene. Then she leans closer with a mischievous smile. Why not chase him down and punch him properly? Apparently, this teacher-student pair is ready to rebel, though school violence probably does deserve punishment. Gray asks in shock. Wait. Am I actually allowed to do that? Ariel covers her eyes theatrically. As a professor, I cannot permit it. But my eyesight has been rather poor lately. She winks, implying she would see nothing even if something happened nearby. Gray sweats at the obvious favoritism and decides to refuse. Just let him go. I do not want any more trouble. Ariel looks disappointed. Gray then asks seriously, are all-seeing eye students truly hated that much? It is an uncomfortable truth. Gray grips his sleeve and says quietly, people mock us sometimes, but this is the first time anyone has used violence. Ariel watches him in silence, then asks sadly, so they really have been mocking you? She lowers her head apologetically. I am sorry. If only I had more authority here. Seeing her blame herself, Gray smiles reassuringly. Please do not worry about it. Without you, I could not even have entered this academy. Gray adds firmly that Bella and the others will prove the all-seeing eye program was not a mistake. After all, the professor has an excellent eye for talent. Images of legendary warriors such as Sword Saint Ami and Great Sage Berder return as proof of Gray's faith. Ariel can only stand silently before his optimism and sincere gratitude. His words shake her deeply. This is exactly why those students deserved special admission, talented, grateful, and disciplined. Ariel smiles gently. Thank you. Then she touches Gray's chin and warns seriously. But do not treat the problems happening around you as someone else's business. She admits that among all-seeing eye students, Gray is the one in whom she places the greatest expectations. Previous special students became top warriors, but Gray is the first person she has ever believed might surpass the limits of humanity itself. Gray sweats under the enormous pressure of being compared with legends. Then he rejects his own insecurity as weakness. The mastermind behind Varian has certainly not abandoned the plan to summon Liquid A. Gray returned to this timeline to make sure he could defeat it. Kronos' words still echo through the current of time. The fate of this world lies in your hands. The scene shifts to the Academy's vast arena, where students gather for a new lesson. The professor stands before the board and announces that today's swordsmanship class will be live combat practice. Everyone must pair up according to the list. Gray looks anxiously at the crowd and tells himself to stay sharp and focused. If he fails, people will use it as another excuse to ridicule every all-seeing eye student. At minimum, he must prove that he can keep pace with ordinary academy students. Then Gray sees the matchup list and freezes. His name is paired directly against Leon Hies. His opponent is the top student in the swordsmanship course, meaning the strongest freshman in the entire academy. The professor announces from the center of the arena. I paired students of similar ability, so do not hold back. Treat this as a real battle. Gray sweats and thinks sarcastically that there is nothing similar about their ability. He was only just admitted through a special program, yet he has to fight the top-ranked student. Gray remembers that Leon already dislikes all-seeing eye students. After their previous incident, he is probably eager to beat Gray senseless. Yet Gray is worrying before the match has even begun. Leon approaches with a mysterious smile. Hello? It seems we are partners. I am genuinely pleased. Unlike Gray, Leon is filled with fierce determination. He cannot believe he finally gets to fight Lord Gray. All his effort to rank first has paid off. He trained harder than anyone and desperately wants Gray to witness his true swordsmanship. Seeing Leon's radiant smile, Gray shudders. That smile is far too bright. He assumes Leon is thrilled to have a legal chance to beat him into the ground. The professor's voice echoes across the arena. Is everyone ready? Gray looks more ready to run than fight. The starting signal sounds, and the arena instantly erupts with a metallic crash of weapons as every pair charges into battle. Leon wastes no time. A powerful slash comes crashing down. Gray grits his teeth and braces his sword against the attack. Leon's relentless swings create crushing pressure, forcing Gray completely onto the defensive. Leon's eyes glow blue with excitement as he attacks with terrifying speed and force, leaving Gray clinging to the hilt just to avoid being blown away. Why is he acting so weak already? Confidence is part of victory. Amid the violent clash of steel, Leon smiles approvingly. You are strong. It is hard to believe someone like you failed the official entrance examination. He continues pressing with razor-sharp strikes, forcing Gray to focus completely on deflecting every attack. Gray evaluates the fight tensely. He expected to lose instantly, but he can still hold his ground. However, even using both hands, he cannot match Leon's raw strength. He wonders whether Leon has,